And there we go. Okay, Ethan. Welcome to the Works of Man. Today's first questions. What do you think are the main drivers of society?
Wow, we're jumping right in, huh?
Yep.
What did you call it? Works of Man?
Yeah.
That's an excellent name for a podcast.
Thank you.
I like that. What are the main drivers of society?
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw that question, the first idea that popped in my head was money.
Definitely.
I've always kind of thought that money is the main driver of society.
I think mine's like a possibility, since money is like a key that unlocks things. Mm-hmm. So itself, if you're saying that possibility is the main driver of society, so I view saying money is the main driver, which is true. But I think the more detailed, like what lies behind the door that money unlocks.
I was thinking less of an optimistic view, such as America being the nation of possibility, which to an extent is. I was thinking more of a kind of corrupt kind of view, as in money is what makes people do things. You know, people just want more and more and more of it, so there's kind of backdoor deals, and that's what get things done. You know, it's what puts people in seats. It's kind of unfortunate. I think if we could, eliminate all political bribery,
that would be great.
Right? It'd be excellent. I'd like to live there.
That was what I think we're decently good. I know that like the Netherlands, Sweden, those kind of states, countries, they're less in bribery whenever, and go more towards the East and Europe. I think like Rwanda and Ukraine, more bribery. I'm not quite sure why that is actually. Like, why is it you go towards like the northern part of the Europe, less bribery, and as you go eastward and down more? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Somebody knows.
It's cultures and climate. It's like fairness. I don't know. It's something odd. Okay. So drivers of society, money. What does money unlock that people want?
I think money can be equivocated to power.
Mm-hmm.
Money gets you power because if you have money, you can use that money to make other people do things for you.
You can be a genie.
A what?
A
genie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
Possibility rant.
I mean, in more of a physical sense, money can get you possessions. I can get you things you want, but I think that's not what we should be going for. Like as a society, just like more money.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot about personal finance and that sort of stuff. I'm taking personal finance right now because I'm interested in getting my finances in order for when I go out into the world next year. And the more I read about it, the more I realize it's not about accumulating wealth. It's about identifying what will make you the most happy, and then adjusting your spending level to reflect that. So if you have your spending level, if you have what makes you happy, spending a superfluous amount and going overboard isn't going to make you happier. You know, you're just spending more money. So don't do that.
What will be your spending level?
Right now?
Yeah. Well, let's just say Ethan is aged up. He's now 30 years old.
30 years old, okay.
You have the job that you want or something of the sort.
Yeah.
How much money would you want to take in? How much would you have to spend to be at your equilibrium of happiness?
Jeez, I don't know. So you haven't calculated it yet. That's the thing.
What possessions do you want? And what's like the monthly things that you want?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about my future a lot, you know. I think seniors do a lot of thinking about their futures. And I'm looking into a low cost of living situation so that I can invest a large portion of my income to live off of in the later years so that I can hopefully stop working or work part-time earlier on to focus more on my family, right? That's my goal, is to not be working so much. And to do that, you have to live on less, which is possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. So I'd like, you know, a simpler lifestyle. I don't need a big house, you know? I don't even need like a middle-sized house. I just need a simple home, somewhere to live. I'd like to build my own house someday, actually.
Yeah.
I would. That's probably if there is one goal, like a lofty goal, it's to build my own house. Not necessarily a house in a neighborhood, but like a cabin, you know.
Sounds nice. Become like a hermit.
Yeah, like a hermit. But you know, I wouldn't be a hermit. I'm a social person. So I need people. I can't just live alone. Also, I respect people who live out in the woods. But thinking about my budget and things I would want to buy, I love movies and that sort of thing, and it's really hard to like not get sucked into the big TVs and the projectors and the home theater setup, and it's so costly. And I mean, right now I just have, you know, I have a little TV in my room. It's not little. It's actually it's a pretty decently sized TV.
What size?
I have no idea how many inches, but it's not huge.
Okay.
But and, you know, just a Blu-ray player.
Mhm.
And my DVDs, and I watch them, and I'm very happy right now with that. So you got to ask yourself, if I'm happy with that right now, why do I need more? Why would I ever need more? You know, DVDs I can buy used for a few bucks a piece. Blu-rays are $20 new.
That's absurd.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see a huge difference in quality to make it, you know, in 4K is even. Whew. But, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy where I am.
I think it's like kind of, well, possessions are partially status and partially something to attain. Like, you know.
Status. That's ridiculous.
Let's do a little analogy. Have you ever played Minecraft?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, you know, you get your full diamond set and it has all the enchantments on it. And then you're bored because, well, you got that goal done. You have to do something else.
Yeah.
Kind of like your new giant projector you project onto a little screen that descends from the trees out in your cabin.
We're assuming the home theater is in the woods. My cabin house.
There you go. You get the projector. You watch a few movies or me, and boom, you're bored. So kind of be like,
you need to up the game.
Yeah, I think it'd be more finding things that you can achieve, not like really constantly like, make no real happiness index improvement to you. Because like once you have water, once you have soda, no more happiness. It's like water's all you need.
Yeah. So you have to almost be okay with yourself with what you have. And I guess the key word here is enough. Enough is the word. Like, what is enough for you? And once you hit that, it's kind of like this curve, you know, a parabolic curve, and you go up and up and up, and then you hit the point of maximum happiness, and then you spend more, but you're not actually adding more happiness. But you have to figure it out. That's the key. You can't know until you know, right?
I think you can make some guesses.
You can, educated guesses. But, you know, if you keep track of your purchases and reflect on each one, like, did this really improve my level of happiness in the moment? And a lot of them don't.
It's true. So what is your main purchases? DVDs?
My main purchase. All right, so I used to spend more on food than I do now. And I used to work with Safeway. I worked for Safeway about 2 years, and then I quit to spend more time. When did I quit? Like right before spring break, because I wanted to enjoy the rest of my senior year. I've been working for Safeway for so long, and I got kind of tired of working for a giant corporation. So I'm working for Safeway, and I've got, you got the check comes in each month, and it's like, oh, that's nice. I'm making money, so I have more money to spend. So it's kind of that mindset. But now I'm not working, so I don't have as much money to spend. So I've been far more conscious with my purchases than I was. But I'll tell you, so I'm spending less on food, although I still do go out and get food. It's fun to do that with friends.
That's true.
Like I go to Rainy Day Records.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a big spot for me. I like buying records and
as do I.
CDs. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. But also, I've been buying records for so long that I'm kind of to the point where I have enough records where I'm not having to buy as many. That's because I have so many. It's like I can listen to the ones I already have. It's not. It's slowed. It's slowed a little bit. What else do I buy?
Let's see. Clothes?
No.
Yeah, same here.
I don't buy clothes. I don't even know the last time I bought an article of clothing. Maybe socks. I needed new socks.
A hat.
A hat?
Yeah. I don't wear any hats. Just
Me neither. I mean, I have a beanie that I wear in the winter to keep my ears. I'm very practical when it comes to clothes. I have just enough shirts and like pullovers and stuff to get me through the week, and then I do a load. I have a few pairs of jeans, and that gets me through the week.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
How many pairs of clothes would you have? Like you're moved out, you have your own steady income.
Sure.
How many pairs of clothes?
If I'm on my own.
Yeah.
Enough for a week.
For me, it'd be like 10 of each. That way, if I'm lazy one day or I'm sick, I still have new clothes. And maybe like 2 of each color, whatever. Maybe it's like all gray and blue and black for shirts, and a few jeans and shorts. And then have one nice formal set of clothes all the day.
I've thought about it. I've honestly thought about buying like 7 of the exact same outfit and just calling it a day.
I would.
And that's, I think Einstein did that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but, and I respect that on one level because you don't have to think about it, but also make life a little more interesting, There are days I wake up and I'm like, I'd rather wear this, and then I put it on. Life can't be planned like that so much.
for me at least, it's always like, what's on the top, and is it the same color? If it is, I'm not gonna wear it. That's my thought process.
So you're color oriented then.
Yeah, well, I was told that wearing same colors looks a bit odd, so I'm like, okay, I just won't do that, and that's it.
Nice.
Yep.
Try and look good, but not at the sacrifice of comfort, right?
This time.
This time. It's getting warmer out, and I can start wearing t-shirts, which is nice.
Okay. Do you ever cook your own food?
Sometimes. I'm not very good at it.
You
or
should.
I haven't really put the time into it. But that's one of the key. So there's three, linking it back to money and finance and what makes the world go round. There's kind of three big pillars of giant spending: housing, transportation, and food. And the way to cut down on food is to cook your own meals, right?
Yeah.
So I intend to do a lot more of that in adulthood.
Here, let me show you with one thing to you. You
Yeah.
like mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so best mushrooms they're gonna have is one of the best. Yeah, I one, but get your cast iron, heat it up, pretty hot, medium.
All right.
Get your butter in there. Get your salt, your pepper, and then you put your mushrooms in there. They're chopped up pretty nice and fine. 1 minute per side about. Delicious.
Sounds tasty.
They're amazing on basically everything.
I like
The best
that.
recipes.
I dig it.
Now, what foods do you eat?
I'm a pretty typical teenager. There's not a whole lot I don't like. I don't like onions.
Oh, really?
Never like, yeah, because think about it. So when's like one of your first interactions with onions? For me, it was with pizza. All right, Brewery City Pizza. It's always the place to go for my birthday.
Yeah.
Love Brewery City. They have the Brewmaster, which is all the stuff I love on it, except
What?
for onions. They have onions on it. So you got this Brewmaster. It's got like the olives and the sausage and the cheese and the sauce and everything. And then, so that's all like chewy stuff, right? And then you bite into the onion, and it's like,
Crunch.
it's crunchy.
Okay.
It's crunchy, and you hear it, and I hated that.
Okay.
It's not so much the taste; it's the texture.
Let me share with you a tip. You come long enough, and boom, not crunchy.
You do what?
So you get your onion. Do you know how to chop one? You know how to chop an onion?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
so
chop up an onion.
you get nice and small. Cook it with like mushrooms or meat, or whatever. Maybe some carrots and bok choy. You know, some good stuff.
Yeah.
And then you don't even taste them. You don't even taste them. Just add some flavor to the food.
Yeah.
You don't taste them. You don't feel them. Add to your meat. If your tacos, they're gone.
You know, I can dig that.
Yeah.
I can dig that. It's not the taste. It's just the texture with certain foods. I'll eat onions, but specifically on pizza, it like ruins it
It's
for
true.
me. And they
It's true.
slip them like, I swear to God, they put them underneath the cheese. I swear. It's like they put the onions down, the sauce, onions, cheese, and it makes it impossible to like just pick them off. So I have to ask for no onions when I order a Brewmaster from Brewery City Pizza.
Ethan becomes rich, buys Brewmaster.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk just buys it and says no onions.
Yeah, I scribble off the onions. My grandpa, when I used to have like sleepovers at my grandparents' house and we get Brewery City Pizza, he used to tell them that I was allergic to onions because he cared for me. He didn't want me to have onions on my pizza.
Yeah.
It's kind of smart.
Okay, so back to actual question. Onions, because they make everyone cry. But besides money,
Okay.
what are the main drivers aside? You've mentioned family. But you want to have a family later on.
Yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Well, I'd have to look deeper than my parents did it. You know, I desire. First of all, I desire to like meet someone and marry someone. To have that really deep human connection that goes further than a friendship. Although it's not to say a friendship can't go that far, but to be that intimate with someone, you know, I desire that. And then to have a child, you know, to have a kid, to raise a kid, I think is one of the greatest endeavors you can ever go on. You know, I just think of all the things I could do with them. Watching all my favorite movies. You know, parents have such a large degree on influence on their children. You look at who people are, and you take it back to their childhood, and you can see why they are the way they are. And I want to do a good job.
I agree with that. Now, has your opinion on family, marriage, and kids changed over time?
Has it?
Yeah, as yours?
Well, what do you mean? Like, what would be a base opinion?
Okay, so for me, vehemently opposed to all of it.
You are.
Now I was. And now I'm not.
Oh, you were. Okay.
See, for me, it's more of like kind of slow change or none at all. Like I do something, and there's a sudden change. So it's basically me. I kind of flip flop occasionally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's views change over time.
Yeah.
If they didn't, I'd be very worried.
That's true.
You know, I was kind of a sidetrack, but I was watching a Noam Chomsky documentary for Mr. Means's Current World Issues class, and I hadn't known too much about him, but he's a fascinating character. And he mentioned, you know, he's writing all these books over his career, and he's mentioned like, oh yeah, some of the stuff I wrote earlier I don't agree with. That's very good.
That is
a very good thing. I'd be very worried if you agreed with stuff you wrote 20 years ago, you know.
That's true.
So where were we? We're talking about family.
Yeah. As
views
changed.
on
Like mine
family.
went from no to yes, and yours went from.
Mine's been a yes to still a yes.
I see.
But I will say that I think there's a trend of people maybe moving away from marriage in the future. I think we'll start to see that becoming less of a super important thing. It won't be like the
do doubt
mainstay.
that one. I feel like you look from cultures across the world, and marriage kind of always been there. Look at the current like culture. I think it's gonna be multiple monogamous relationships more. So it'd be like almost polygamy, but be multiple monogamous ones.
Like within a lifetime.
Yeah.
So do you think it'll be like multiple marriage and then disillusions? Or
I feel like there'll be a few marriages, but see, the marriages and divorce, it's a bit of a hassle to go through.
sure.
Occasionally, this person has been like 7 marriages, and like, okay, good, and move on. But it's going to be like multiple girlfriends or boyfriends, or whatever, and then like a marriage or 2, and you see settle down in your old age. And that's going to be like. I feel like it's going to be less value placed in the institution of marriage, one could say.
Sure.
And then it'll be like if all things goes down in value and back up, because that's how things work, kind of go in little waves. So we'll see how it goes. Your thoughts?
So you're thinking that like divorce will become even more acceptable than it already is.
And then probably go opposite. I feel like that's kind of how history
It'll
works.
bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always rebounds. Like I was reading Orwell's Road to Wigan Pier, and basically said that before the war, socialism had a pretty good name. After the war, not so much, like kind of evil, you know, Red Scare, whatnot. So it went from very good, bad, now good again. So you already have one of those demonstrations.
Sure. To tell you the truth, Miles, I think pretty much everything in American society is going to get more diversified and more. It won't be what it was however many years ago, where it's like you grow up, you know, you meet someone, you have a family, you buy a house. Traditional. Yeah. Traditional is going to go away to an extent. You're going to start seeing a lot more people doing their own thing, doing it their own way.
That's true.
And that's a great thing.
It is.
It's a really great thing. So I look forward to seeing it. You're already seeing it, you know, in the world.
I'll say it affects society, because, you know, messing with the future generations is a very interesting thing to mention. Lots of influence there. So how would you raise your children or child?
Well, that's a big question.
That is true.
How would I raise my children? Well, from an ideological standpoint, I would certainly have to instill values of like free thinking in them, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, some of your views are gonna like wash onto them. That's a given.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. But I would want to teach them to think for themselves as much as possible, and to formulate their own opinions, to look at all the facts, that sort of thing. To be, quote unquote, an intellectual, negative stigma aside.
Kinda.
But to think for themselves, you know, and not just take what people tell them. I think that's important.
I actually thought it was kind of, which is, I thought Mr. Graham about the school and the school's role, like teaching values, whatever. I view it as you have to have faith and trust that your outlook is kind of correct. And if you have faith and your outlook is correct, then logically one should be able to take it from the base principles. So you would instill the base principles into your children ever, and kind of see how they go from there. You have the base principles that you have. They should have the same conclusion, which would be pretty good ideally. I think that I would go for me at least.
So you have to give them somewhere to start.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Be a good person, you know.
Yeah, well, what defines a good person to you?
See, I thought you might take it there. What defines a good person? Yeah. Well, see, Miles, that's tricky, because I happen to believe that just about every action anybody makes is a selfish action.
That's true.
Even so-called selfless actions.
I agree with that. Actually,
you agree with
last
that?
Week, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
wait, we talked about this?
Well, no. Last month or so, you see, my brother, he went from a period of like thinking hardly on certain questions, and for me, don't do that. I don't get such narrowed in questions to think about. But the one about selfish actions versus non-selfish actions, I only really kind of thought about a lot, maybe too much. And then it's like, 10 minutes here or there. My view of it is maybe the same as yours, is that given that we feel pain, we feel pleasure.
It's all about pain and pleasure.
Yeah,
I know where you're going.
So if you see a beggar, you don't give to beggar because you're being selfless. You give to beggar because you feel more negative emotion if you're not.
Yes.
So yeah, there you go.
I see. Okay, I used to be a determinist. Well, to start in freshman year, I totally was not a determinist. Wholly, 100% believe in free will.
Yeah.
And then I totally flopped. Just complete determinist. Didn't believe in free will in the slightest, which is a controversial view.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to convince a lot of my friends of that view because it's not like a.
I think the argument for determinism, maybe the argument here is that multiple ones, but it could be factors like environment matters like the most ever, the human spirit, or it'd be like atoms bounce off each other. That happens logically. If you know everything, you could plot out all of history.
Yep.
I think that's most convincing argument is that one, right?
That's kind of the one I went with, too. And then you think, well, what about like quantum mechanics? It's random, right? Well, it's like, random isn't free will either. So either you have like these predetermined particles bouncing off each other, or you have random quantum mechanics, and I don't feel very free in any sense.
Well, how can you prove that they're random, not just like some really, really long pattern? Like you a pattern longer than the entire lifespan of the universe. So.
Oh yeah. Fair. So okay. So
yeah,
I used to be a determinist, and now I've kind of like eased up on that a little bit. Okay, I've been reading into it more. There's some messy stuff with definitions that kind of makes you think, and I think you have to have a really, really, really deep understanding of determinism to truly believe in it, which I don't have yet. I'm still doing my research, so I've kind of eased up on it.
Yeah.
But a lot of those principles that I thought about when I was a determinist still hold. The idea that we are formulated by our environments, a lot of things are preset. We're very reactive creatures.
That's true.
You present a stimulus to a human, and then they react in a certain way. And I think that reaction is predetermined, however much you don't want to believe that.
Yeah, on that level it is, definitely. But I think laws really stand to have everything be predetermined, can they?
Say that again?
Well, laws, if one holds that thing is deterministic, the only reason to have a law is to kind of mold outcomes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And we do it all the time. We try to provoke certain reactions in people all the time. Advertisers, they're showing you what things are more proven to get you to go buy their product. So we're hacking the brain all the time. We don't really think about it that way, do we?
That's true.
How do we get onto determinism?
I was like, what values want to instill into your children? Oh, yeah. And then,
Oh, yeah, child rearing.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So, yes. So a lot of your principles will wash onto your children. And, wait, was that where I wanted to go with this?
Yeah,
Was there more I wanted to talk about free will?
I think so.
So child rearing. But, so the effect of the parent on the child is huge.
Yeah.
Every little thing, So you kind of have to be on point with that and watch out. Make sure you don't actually accidentally say something that will, set off something later in life.
Or that one. It's more of like large numbers. You have to have faith that maybe this one action would be pushing the world this way and going to cause World War III.
We can't be thinking that deep into it, because then you'll start just like triple, like going back and back and back.
Yeah,
exactly. But you should really, really, really be mindful of the impact you're having on the child. The things you say, the things you do around them, the environment you're growing up in them, because it's very, very impactful on them as a person later in life.
I think of the idea that by having a child, you can really kind of fix yourself, since most importantly to get looking at yourself in the mirror and kind of seeing themselves past the surface. But with a child, you get to care for them, and people naturally tend to care more for others more than themselves. Like you give a dog, say you're a vet, and you give the owner medication for the dog, chances are you're going to give the medication to the dog more like precisely and on time than if it's for themselves. So you apply that principle, is like you realize that, well, this child I care a lot about, I'm having them do this good habit, and it kind of makes you reflect upon your own bad habits. So you have to figure out, well, is there a contradiction? I have to fix it. So to choose one that you believe in, and then improve yourself that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, neither of us are parents.
That's true.
And parents are the ones who know best about child raising.
Yeah.
So I almost don't feel
qualified.
Exactly, to comment on it.
That's true.
But if I had to comment on it, that is what I would say.
Okay. I'd say let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, what is, in your opinion, the greatest challenge facing the individual in today's society?
Greatest challenge facing the individual in today's society is finding their purpose. Seriously, why am I here?
Not housing.
No, not housing.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll build my cabin and then life's over.
There you go.
Because I've achieved my purpose. You know, sometimes I start thinking, what's it all for? You know, and that's a pretty generic thing to say. I think a lot of people think that. It's almost kind of boring to talk about because so many people think about it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, sometimes I start thinking, especially when I had a job, it would be like I'd wake up, I'd go to school, I'd go to my job, I'd go home, and then I'd do it again. What? That can't be all there is, which is why I'm looking into financial independence. So it's not all there is. I think human connection is the point.
That's true.
I think there's nothing better than it.
I get that. Or I think it's more. I actually read Faust, but I listened to the lecture on it, and what the dude said is a very famous quote from Faust, which is "Stay a moment, thou art so fair." And he said that as he's looking across the land, so he's turning the sea into land. He's reclaiming the unknown. He's expanding human culture. Okay. I think it's more of the process or the journey of achieving something. Like, you know, you have more dopamine and you're happier as moving towards something. Actually do it, you know, the Minecraft farmer. So that's kind of what you do. So you set your goals in the far future. Maybe that's finding a wife or having kids ever, or your cabin in the woods. And then you just move on towards that and kind of feel your happiness there. Yeah, I did a bit of a religion here ever, but, you know, it's a general idea. That's at least my conception of it.
Have something to work for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel that. Whenever I have like a big project, usually an art project, I feel really, really passionate to work on it and finish it. And I love that feeling.
I agree with that.
That'd be a good feeling to chase. Although you don't want it to take over your life to the point where you're neglecting your relationships, right?
I agree with that. No Steve Jobs here.
Yeah. I don't want to be the CEO of a large corporation. That
It'd
sounds
be fun.
like hell.
See, here, maybe
it could be fun, but...
Tell me your thoughts on this one. Because at least for me, I noticed the dichotomy of me being happy to be content on a beach and like a small little RV or bus, like 60 whatever, and on my days writing and maybe playing chess here and there, whatever, and looking at the sun. Or I want to be like, you know, senator, president, CEO, judge, lawyer, a bit farther off hard things to do versus easy, calm. It's like a very odd dichotomy of my personality. You have that odd thing where like you want to strive, also you don't. Yeah.
I think everybody does. You work really, really hard, and then you think, you know, why am I working so hard? Am I getting out of it the amount I'm putting in? And if you're not, you should stop. You know. What's the next question?
I didn't finish on that. Let's see. Meaning. Back to the feeling of work and kind of striving towards it, at least for me. I want to say the same for you. How about when you're not actually doing that, when you're not moving towards a goal, when the water's coming in, your capability, your understanding is going away, how do you feel? I mean, are you going towards anything?
When you're not going towards something?
Yeah.
I feel like lethargic. There'll be times when I'll be sitting in my room and there'll be nothing I need to do. Maybe there's some stuff on the horizon, but I don't need to do anything right in the moment. I'll be sitting there and I'll be thinking, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. Am I doing it wrong? You know? But no, I think leisure time is very important. And I think in American culture, leisure time is kind of looked down upon in a way. You know? And I don't like that. I don't like that.
It's important, yeah.
I think you gotta reset your mind. I've taken a major hiking trip the last 2 years, just out into the forest for a couple nights. That's like a grand reset. I think that hiking trip has allowed me to continue existing. But I kind of burned out towards the beginning of this year. And a single hiking trip a year is not enough to fully... You got to be sporadic with it. You know, you got to have intervals and take your leisure time and not feel guilty about
That's true.
not doing something.
Personal leisure.
But also don't engage so much in it that you're neglecting your work.
How about, so for you, I noticed that things in the horizon. Now, could you do those things in the horizon? Like, could you theoretically
Like
get
in the
out?
moment?
Yeah, could you, like, you know, sit on the floor at night, whatever, and your pencil? Could you do them, or is it more of like lack of motivation or lethargy stopping you from doing it in those moments?
Motivation's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the motivation to do something, what's going to make you do it? Some external pressure?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that's not enough. And that's why we see a lot of, people failing classes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the motivation to do the work, and the external pressures
Too late.
like grades and, failing is not enough to stop them, to get them to do the work. So they just don't do it. And I understand that. Like, I get that. If I could, if you could instill a motivation in every student to do their work, we'd have no problems.
That's true.
At all. Internal motivation is the best kind of motivation, but you don't just have it for everything.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. I wonder about the evolution. So, honestly, some people, there's a reason why some are more conscientious and some not so hardworking. But in today's society, would the conscious people be bred at a higher rate to the point where the less hardworking people will eventually become a smaller and smaller minority if you play out a society that's very stable and rewards hard work across time?
Sure. So taking that scenario, so you're saying the two groups are people who are internally motivated and people who are not internally motivated? Okay. Well, there's one assumption you're making, and that assumption is that internal motivation is a genetic thing.
I think to some degree it is.
To some degree.
I mean, I think definitely part of it could be nurture and society, whatever. But to some degree, it is internal. Like, look at me versus my brother. We're pretty close in motivation, but I'm a bit more. Look to me and my half brother, where he's less motivated internally than myself. That's kind of how it is. A bit of society, a bit of biology. If you just increase it so biology is more and more pertinent by societal factors, then would the trait you're not looking for go down?
If it was genetically linked, then yes.
Okay.
If you take any genetic trait and then breed them, then yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well that would.
Well, it'll be forced breeding. It'll just be like.
Did you say it would or wouldn't be forced breeding?
It would not. No.
It would not.
No. I have my morals.
Interesting thought experiment there, Miles.
No, it could be a real possibility. Since you look at societies that are pretty calm and more hardworking than ever, Nordic countries, and for instance, the old Nords, just take their society, put it frozen in time, play it out in a few centuries, whatever. Be a little fun to run. Just have the same style of functions. I think in their society, hard work gets you pretty far. So you just do that and maximize how far hard work gets you. Then you should see hard work traits go up.
I think simulations like that would be really fun to create.
Okay.
That's really cool.
And now about you.
Sure.
What set of moral codes do you aspire to? Or what ideal do you hold?
What ideals do I hold? Well, I tell a lot of my friends this, and it's very important to me, but honesty in your relationships, I think, is one of the best things you can do, at least for me. I think a lot of chinks in the armor of friendship come from dishonesty. You see that, you ever watch movies or TV shows? A lot of it, a lot of the conflict is created just by misunderstandings. You put everybody in a room and you're like, all right, everybody, just say your bits. I feel like it would clear things up a lot.
Definitely.
So honest communication, right? Talking to people honestly, not hiding your feelings, which can be hard for people sometimes, especially men. We're kind of taught in a way to hide our feelings and not show so many emotions. Well, I think that's changing a little bit. I think that's getting better. So that's good. But honesty, honest human connection.
That's right.
One of the greatest things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned beforehand blindness, and definitely the cure to blindness is honesty.
Yeah.
Personally, I prefer critiques over compliments because compliments, what do they give you? Very, very little.
They make you feel good for a moment.
Kinda.
See,
it's very few people actually, give me a compliment, actually feel good.
Sure.
And it's you have to really trust you and that you have a high standard.
That you're actually you actually feel that way.
No,
What do you
it's
mean?
it's more so that your opinion matters. That's basically it.
Okay. Sure.
Whereas it's critiques, it's that's food for thought. That's something I can examine. It's something that can save me troubles in the future. I can avoid that little stone on the road if that makes me fall off my death. Good stuff like that.
Yeah. So then you're not doing it over and over again without being aware. It's like self-awareness almost.
Okay. Anything else besides honesty for you?
Honesty. I feel like that reaches out to a lot of other things. But that is the most important one. If I think about, my friends, I think I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Let's leave it there.
How about for a society? Like, say you must set the cultural standards for a society. What would they be?
Cultural standards. It's a big one. You're asking me to like design a society here.
Yep.
Sustainable one. Maybe one of the problems in a lot of societies is that people hold different beliefs. Well, hold on. I'm not going to make any super generalized statements here that will get me in trouble. People should definitely hold different beliefs. But a lot of people have different values. And so, that creates a conflict at points. I think during war times, a lot of people can come together, especially, a long time ago, and then hold the same values. And that's why you can succeed so strongly. You see in past wars, people turn factories into like making planes and things like that. And they'd come together, they grow vegetables in the backyard. And truthfully, I just don't see that happening in today's world.
I think it takes a much larger conflict that people can both agree on.
Yeah. Like Terminator.
There, yeah.
See? Terminator happened. You see all the people getting together and fighting the machines. Now that's nice. That's a heartwarmer right there. Seeing everybody come together. Liberal, conservative, they're killing the machines. Now, I hope that doesn't happen. Judgment Day. But at the moment, we have all these different people with all these different values. And I haven't actually stated any of them. See how I'm like dancing around the question? So I think if you can start off and you can kind of set the values, and then if everybody in the society can live by those, you can have a pretty successful society. So I think, care for your fellow people, care for thy neighbor. Don't be selfish. Help themselves out. Because if you help somebody and they help you, then everybody's helping everybody, and it's great.
So in some instance, you will be setting down the foundations, and then letting the people build off the actual structure of the house. Kind of like that.
House analogy.
Yeah, I was going to a tree or house. So
tree house?
No, it would be the tree or house. Because let's say
tree
roots, and let them decide the branches or a foundation and the house on top of it. Like you give them the set in stone things that almost everyone can agree upon, and aren't going to really change too much over time. And then everyone else gets to change the house, go from mansion to a cottage to everyone, like that.
So, because then you need all that different stuff to keep life interesting. If everybody's the same,
very boring,
terrifying. So, there's that. I think a lot of conflict in society, and I think a lot of the reasons that people can't arrive at conclusions, compromises, is not because, oftentimes it's because their arguments may be faulty, or they may have faulty thinking. Either they realize that or they don't. But I think they start from people start from a different set of pre-existing beliefs, and then so they're starting from these different positions, and then they're trying to work towards something. But because they started in different places, it's so much harder to arrive at a common solution, right? I'm not saying people should have the exact same starting positions, but I think that's one of the things. Why can't people agree? Well, it's oftentimes because they have a belief that they always hold true, which cannot be reconciled with somebody else's solution that holds a different belief to be true. Like, it might be kind of difficult for an atheist and a theist to argue over moral philosophy. I'm not saying it's impossible, and it certainly is not. But if one person believes in God and the other does not, and one person is using God to support the moral arguments and the other person is not, how are they going to arrive at a common solution?
Very difficult, yeah.
It's difficult, really hard. You can apply that to anything.
So I think for what you said, it'll be kind of similar to. Actually, it's a different question. What percentage of society? Let's see now. So you're organized in society, and you decide people's beliefs.
Okay. You decide people's beliefs. That sounds horrible, but we're gonna go with it.
Well, you're
setting the first.
You're a genie. You snap whatever. People's minds change.
Year zero.
Year zero. Okay. So you decide the percentage of people's beliefs are similar.
Similar.
Because you mentioned some different positions aren't going to have the same spot, but the more similar they are, the easier it will be to do that.
Yeah.
So probably some middle range or some spot would be the sweet spot of how similar a belief should be to have the same position, but still to change.
To have a stable society.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Like what percentage?
Oh, what percentage of people would have to have the similar? Well, that's trick. Well, I'm tempted to say 100%. Because if you have even one dissenter, that can throw a wrench in things,
True. I want to say overall population, you take all 360 million Americans or so, and you say 10. So you're gonna share 10% of the same values, or 7% or 50%. Like what percentage of them? Like what percent of values should they all share?
10% of our population?
No, so you have 100%. You have the whole pie.
Sure. Okay.
And then you can decide what percentage of them. So what percentage of the beliefs? So say you have your book.
Oh, of the beliefs.
Yeah. So
Okay.
your book of beliefs, you could choose 10%, and all you guys have all these versus 7% or 70%, whatever.
What percentage of their beliefs should be similar to create, like, theoretically a society that would be stable forever?
So it's better.
Better.
Yeah.
Well, geez, if even 5% of our beliefs were shared across the nation, that'd provide us a pretty good jumping point, don't you think?
I feel like we should share more than 5%. I mean,
10%?
we agree on most laws.
Fair.
Like it'd be to use the tree analogy. Most of the roots are fine, but a few of them aren't. So I think more like we have like 50% agreed upon.
It's hard to remove a rotten root.
It's true. Or say that it's not rotten.
There's a book I read by St. Thomas More, I believe his name was. The book's called Utopia.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've been fascinated with the idea of utopia for a long time, and that's I think one of the better books about it. It's a fascinating book because it goes into detail. The first half is a critique of the modern society. The second half is literally just him like writing out the details of what a utopia would look like his utopia, the exact details. It's fascinating.
I think it was like a parody or a satire of like how absurd it'll be.
Utopia?
Yeah, from my knowledge of the utopians, it could work, but I feel like it kind of requires the Soviet man type of thing. Like people need to act not as people, but as Soviet men or as utopians for that society to work.
They'd have to operate within the binding framework of how the society has to operate.
It has to be something other than human. Like you have to remove most of that outliers. So instead of like schools just say Timmy's too different, let's just kick him out.
Or like force them into a certain framework, which is also scary.
Well, some people you can't force. Like some people are going to say, Timmy, go out the door. Timmy's going to walk toward you more. It's like, what are you gonna do? Nothing.
Yeah. What's next for discussion?
Okay. Next one. What is the worst possible version of yourself?
What is the worst possible version of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going to give not a super serious answer to this one, but if we're taking it to the extreme, we're taking it to the extreme,
Let's
Miles.
Do it.
The worst possible version of myself.
As like realistic. You're not gonna like become because obviously you could like you could become Hitler. That's kind of unlikely.
Well, no, okay, I'm not going that absurd. But a serial killer.
Yeah.
Why? Now I have no murderous tendencies whatsoever. But I can imagine an alternate universe. I watch a lot of slasher movies. I love slasher movies, from the 80s. Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers. Love those guys.
Yeah.
I think those movies are fun. I can imagine a possible version of myself where those movies, like, I become so enticed by these films that it's not that I want just to kill people. It's that I want to recreate the feeling of being in one of those movies and being one of the killers. And slicing and dicing people in those really creative ways that those special makeup artists do. And so it wouldn't be me like going out like Ted Bundy, that kind of thing. It'd be me like setting up these elaborate playscapes so that I could like almost act out these fantasies, which, let me be clear, I do not have, but an alternate version of me might have, taken to the extreme.
See.
Fun, huh?
Okay. That's a fun question. Kind of side note. So say that you are not as hardworking. What would happen to you?
If I was not as hardworking as myself right now. Yeah. Well, okay, hardworking.
Yeah.
Let's think about that first.
So self-motivated.
If I wasn't self-motivated. But here's the thing, Miles. Here's the thing. I have been doing very well academically throughout most of my high school career.
Yeah.
And prior.
Yeah.
But is that a good thing?
That's true.
I turned in all my assignments, did all my work. First few years, I definitely stayed up super late doing math homework every night because I was like, I have to get it done. But now this senior year, becoming more self-aware, and I'm realizing it's not always worth it to do your assignments. And some assignments aren't worth doing at all. And so, to be honest with you, right now, this semester, my grades are slipping.
Yeah.
But my self-motivation
The same.
is the same. I'm just coming to realize that some things aren't worth my time. And so you may look at me and think, okay, Ethan, you're not working as hard as you were, say, freshman year or even first semester. But I would still say I am that same hard
domains.
worker. Did I say that?
Just in different domains.
Yeah, different domains. So I'm pushing my energies towards other places. And I'm realizing I'm still like the hard worker, but I'm hard working only at the things that I identify as being valuable to me. So that 3-hour Chomsky documentary, I watched the whole thing because it fascinated me. But like certain assignments in certain classes, I've just let slide.
Now, what has been the public's reaction to this?
Say that?
What has been your friends and family's reaction to this?
Well, okay.
How has society slapped at you or not?
No.
Oh, that's good.
And honestly, it's because I front-loaded. Front-loaded for 6.5 semesters. No, wait. Right? Because 3 years is 6.
No, usually 4 times 2 is 8, so
It's
7.5.
been 7.5. Because I did the 3 years and then another. So I front-loaded for so many years that it's like I'm slacking off now and no big deal. Yeah. I'm already accepted into college and there's only a month left of school. Now, if I was doing this freshman year, it might be a different story. My dad might get on me a little more, like, come on, Ethan, get your grades up a little bit. But right now, no. There's been, if anything, I've had interesting conversations with people about school and the importance of school and how valuable certain assignments are, and I think that's really cool.
That's a good question. What value should school teach?
What values should school teach?
Yeah, or should they not teach any at all?
That's a good question. Maybe an even better question is to start by asking what values does our school teach?
That's a good question. Yeah.
And do they?
What do you think that our school teaches?
I am not all about it the only way.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but
Define it.
my school, define the only way? I think it's like tradition. What's on the pillars?
Pride,
courage, tradition.
Yeah.
And to me, those are just words.
I agree with that. They're just empty things.
Yeah, they're empty. Hate to say it, school administration. And it's not that I don't believe that people like put some stuff behind those words. It's just to me, when I hear pride, courage, tradition, I just hear words.
Yeah, same.
And you can define them and you can talk about them, but I just hear words. I'm sorry. That's the truth. You define your values, especially in a school, by how you act, what policies you implement, how are things structured, how are that kind of stuff. And so you got to look deeper than what they just tell you or about. What actually happens? So what does happen? I've had really good experiences with most of my teachers, most if not all. And maybe that's just because I like forming a relationship with my teachers. Because there are a lot of students that I know that don't like many of their teachers. So it'd be interesting to think about like what creates that. But I've had a really good experience here at Olympia High School, but think about that. How many of my values can I say are because I went here? What do you think?
For me, 0. For you, I mean, spent more time here, maybe more, but
because this is your first year.
Yeah, well, for me, my values are less so from. See, for me, my values I've instilled in me are more the foundation. And me, through books and people, internet, whatever, has kind of like explored different avenues and built the house or built my values that I currently hold. The school hasn't really done much to that. The school, in my view, has done nothing. And my values that they teach you are, let's see, none or that very little work can get you through. That's like the one.
Yeah.
Funny. Actually, one more.
Yeah.
Complaining and whining works.
Yeah. That's funny. If you want like a different class or something. Yeah.
That's funny. More like being punished for stuff like that.
That's funny you should mention doing very little work can get you through, because what I've come to realize is I have put way too much work into so many of my assignments over the years. In some ways, I'm okay with that because I got a lot out of them. But I'm starting to realize I could have put in the base minimum effort and skated along just fine, but I didn't. So that's one of the things I have actively been trying this year to do less because I think it would benefit me more.
That's true.
Because I put so much into some of my assignments. And it's really hard. Yeah, so like presentations and like my civics class or my current world issues class. I will like just type out these crazy long scripts and all of these notes. But you could just put down like, you know, bullets and stuff and just elaborate on them a little bit and just be just fun. But I can't help it. I have to go so far into the issue and so far into everything because I don't feel like I'm doing it justice unless I completely understand it and present everything. But I get a lot out of it in return, so I'm kind of okay with it.
Who's the hardest working person that you know of?
The hardest working person that I know of?
Well, that you know.
Oh, that I know, yeah. Hardest working.
Yourself is a fine answer as well.
No, it's not me. It's not me. There are people. I think I'm a busy person. Not busy. I am. Okay. Yeah. I have to accept this. I am a busy person. I give myself time to relax, and that's good. But I am a busy person. I've taken on a lot over these 4 years. That being said, there are people twice as busy as I am taking on so much. You want names?
Yeah.
I don't know if I should give names.
Okay.
But I'll just say I know people who take on so much. It's
like
almost unbelievable. You know, like various sports and clubs and various outside activities, you know, volunteering, just so many different things all at once. It's absurd. And
are they happy?
That's a good question. I like to think they are, and I think they are to an extent. Some people need to be that active to like feel fulfilled. And if that's the case, then great. But if you're doing all that and you start to feel burnt out or it's having a negative effect on your health, then you need to do self-reflection and evaluate that. Maybe cut a few things out. It just amazes me. I think when you start losing sleep, that's when you start to cut things, because sleep,
that's true.
As I've learned, losing sleep has a long-term negative health effect.
Well, how many hours of sleep do you get?
My freshman and sophomore year, I used to not get as many. There's two reasons for that. The first reason is it's really, really hard for me to fall asleep because I think so much. If you're lying awake at night and there's nothing to stimulate your senses, your mind just runs and it goes thinking about everything it possibly can. And you can't sleep when your mind's active because it's active. The other thing is I've always, the houses I've lived in, the windows have always had street lights outside of them. And I can't sleep if it's not pitch dark. But I finally got, what do you call them?
Shades?
Not even shades, but like, blackout blinds.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Finally got blackout blinds. So now it's like pitch dark in my room at night. And I've started, this year, I implemented kind of a system to help myself fall asleep better, where I would, like at a certain time, stop doing stuff, and then I'd like read my book and sit in bed and kind of allow the mind to go into this cool down phase, so that when I did get under the covers, my mind was in a lower state of activity from having been reading my book for half an hour. That being said, I have not stuck to that. I've gone on and off it, right? But, you know, you get bad sleep one night, you're wrecked for the week sometimes.
See, the thing with me is that for some things I can really like relate to others, but for sleep, I really cannot. Like, how many hours did you get last night, say?
Last night, okay, I had a rough night. And when I have a rough night, I kind of have to watch a movie. Movies take my mind off things.
I see.
Probably finished the movie around 2 and I woke up. My alarm always goes off at the same time each day, right? I don't adjust it. So I always get up at 7:30, which means I got 5.5 hours of sleep.
Okay, so I went to bed at 11:30ish. Got up at 5.
You get up ridiculously.
So that would be 5.5 hours the same. So that's like pretty normal.
But I would argue that the sleep you got is better than the sleep I got because you fell asleep earlier. I think the hours you put in before 12 help you tremendously. And I stole that from a friend. Somebody told me that the hours you get before 12.
I don't know. I just feel like more. I feel like sleepovers ever. I at least feel great after those. Like, I get
Sleepovers?
and like 6 hours sleep because like sometimes
Stay
I
up
have
late.
sometimes I have a race
Mm-hmm.
and I sleep over. Well, do both. That's what I do. I do both. But most nights, 6 hours, 6.5 hours. That's me for the entire year. So I'm not sure if I'm some oddity in this regard, or like, do you do this too? Like 6 hours sleep is fine for you.
I mean, 6 hours sleep is like okay.
Mhm.
Like I'm gonna be able to function. I'll be definitely times where I want to put my head down and fall asleep during class. And I don't like that. I want to be active in
Yeah, I get
class.
that.
I don't like being sleepy. So if I find that when I'm on a good sleep schedule, like when I was doing the cool down routine, that I would be more awake throughout the day. That's a good thing. So I'm thinking, usually on those cool down nights, I would try to get to sleep by 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
And if I wake up at 7:30, that's 8.5 hours of sleep right there. Perfect. That's what teenagers are supposed to be getting. Now, oddly, I found that if I only get a couple hours of sleep, I feel great. Do you get that too?
Same. Like, it's nice to be like, you know what, Miles, go to bed at 10, wake up at 3. Amazing.
Yeah. Now, you can't do that all the time.
Yeah,
but every once in a
The
while,
thing is that I don't feel tired the entire day. Like I feel amazing the entire day.
Yeah.
It's odd.
you expect a crash, but it never
Yeah.
comes. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes, and this is bad, but, I'll maybe be looking at my alarm clock and I'm thinking, man, if I go to sleep now, I'll get 5 hours of sleep. And then I think, but if I stay up for 2 more hours, if I watch another movie, then I'm going to feel great tomorrow because I'll only have gotten 3 hours of sleep. That's not healthy. I'm not promoting that.
Wait.
Am I awake?
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, yeah. But yeah, I didn't sleep too well last night, so.
That's it.
Actually, I did sleep well. I went to sleep really great.
Really?
Because I stayed up so late, which means I slept poorly.
I don't know, for me, how it's for me is my brother very similar to you in that he dwells on things and sleepover. For me, it's more of like, well, my mind go do your things and I fall asleep. I give it free reign.
So
I think it's
nice.
something for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes so, and I'm good.
That
That's
is so
odd. It's odd.
nice. I love
Okay.
that. I wish I could hit the pillow and be out.
So that's it's not. But I've always been trying to rest. Since I think it's something from. For me, rest is a hard thing. So sometimes I'd be like, well, I don't feel done enough. I don't deserve to rest. I don't feel tired ever. I think it's more of a work to leisure balance for me. Like if work is too little, then I don't feel tired. I don't feel like I can really sleep at all. As long as I feel like I can do sleep, I haven't done enough in the day.
Sure.
Like it's more of not just being tired at all, but it's more of like my head deserves to be on this pillow. I can let go and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's same for you.
A little bit.
Okay.
It definitely helps to be tired when you're ready to go
I'm
to
not
bed.
tired. It's more of like I deserve it.
So you feel like you've earned the sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't ask for anything in my life. Like asking for things, I don't feel bad doing it, but I just don't do it. I feel like, if I deserve it, they're gonna give it to me anyways. Most of the time. And I don't even need it at all, so I can just like go through my life without asking for things. Let's see. But where do you spend your time?
Where do I spend my
Yeah.
time? Here.
How many hours at school?
How long is the school day? 6 hours?
It's 6 hours, yeah.
It's 6 hours. So like 6 to 7 hours.
Okay.
Because I always get here before school starts,
Same.
of course. Usually I try to get here by 8:30.
Mhm.
Wait. Yeah, 8:30 each day is usually when I try and
Mhm.
get here so I can talk to friends in the morning. And then oftentimes I'll stay after school to talk to teachers or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say 6 7 hours at school. But then outside of school, spend a lot of time in my room. It's got everything,
It's true.
It's got
Same
the
here.
TV, it's got my record player. I listen to a lot of vinyl. I really like hanging out with people, but I found that a lot of my friends are so busy that it's hard to
True.
arrange those things. I would love it if I could be more spontaneous.
Mhm.
Just call up random people and be like, yo, you want to do something? They're like, yeah, let's do something. But it doesn't really happen. It just doesn't really happen.
Because like they don't want to, or because you don't feel good asking them.
Sometimes I ask them.
Mhm.
But now that I think about it, the onus is on me a little bit because I don't call up a lot of people.
Mhm.
I actually have 1 or 2 friends that do that,
Mhm.
that aren't busy so often that I can just call them up and we can hang out, which is really great. I appreciate that. But there are a lot of people where you have to plan stuff out in advance, and it's kind of like, maybe I should call up people more. But I think it's a little bit in my head where I'm thinking, I could call them, but they're just going to be busy.
See, the thing that stops me from calling people up all the time is that asking people for things. I don't do that.
You don't like asking for people?
No, not really. Like, you see, what I got into doing the dishes in my house is that there's an expectation, and like Dad says, you know what, it'll be good if they're done, and I did them. You know, I did laundry for 3 years. Mm-hmm. It was like as a middle schooler. Only stopped because I was told, Miles, don't do laundry. So I don't ask, I kind of do, and I don't put weights upon others. So it'd be like me calling them and asking them to be a burden upon them. So it makes me closer friend-wise if I call you and I don't respect your time. It's funny.
Fair. But then how are you ever going to hang out with people if you don't ask them to?
Well, I will, but it'll only be in person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you see, I don't really care much about you, and you're like, me putting burden upon you because I can see your face, so I know what you're feeling. For like a phone or whatever, I can maybe hear your voice, maybe won't pick up, or it's words. Can I just trust the words? Mm-hmm. I'm kind of paranoid in some ways, but very little. It's only in people being nice. It's only people being nice. Like people being nice to me, I only think really. It's only by like texting. I'm like, really? It's odd. It's odd. I'm much for in person.
Me too. I think, because in person, FaceTime, phone call, text, in terms of human connection.
Yeah. So what activities do you do? You do your vinyl, you do your slasher movies, and you do your, seven hours of school.
Putting my 7 hours each day. Not just slasher movies. I watch all kinds of movies. I'm a huge movie buff. I love movies so much. And to an extent, it's kind of like, well, should I be spending my time watching so many movies? Like, I don't know, some people look at movies and they're like, well, that's kind of a waste of time. You're just sitting there. But there's kind of two ways you can watch a movie. You can watch it and be lethargic about it and watch it as a distraction. Mm-hmm. Watch it as, and I do watch movies to escape from reality. It's an escapism thing sometimes. But most of the time when I watch a movie, it's for enjoyment. It's for pleasure. It's to, analyze the movie, to get a lot out of it. I'm a very attentive watcher. I've tried in the past. You know how some people will be like working on a little art project and they'll have something on in the background.
That's me, yeah.
And I'm thinking like, all right, I've tried to do that. Mm-hmm. I've tried to like crochet or fold origami during, like, I'll just throw this movie on. I don't care about it too much. I can't. I'm unable to do anything but divert all of my attention to the movie when there's a movie on. So I'm an active watcher. And I think that provides value to movie watching. It makes it more of a valuable experience to me. So I try not to feel guilty about it. If that makes sense.
You can watch too much movies.
You can.
Well,
I think I don't think so. I have a healthy balance. I only watch them on nights when that's not true. There have been so many nights where I've started movies like after 12. It's really bad. It's not healthy. But when I'm in the mood, I'm in the mood,
Fair enough.
What else do I do? Watch movies. Used to fold a lot of origami.
Really?
Yeah. I folded one model every day for a year.
That's good.
In 8th grade. That was a cool challenge. I learned, like, my skill, like, definitely increased the most during that year. Straight up. But I stopped doing origami so much. It's not that I got bored of it, although I did. There's just not really anything I want to fold anymore.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm. Like, you see, to poetry. So at one point, like 3 poems a week. They're pretty decent poems, pretty long too. But at some point, I've explored the ideas that I wanted to explore. It's a bit hard to do it since I write by just exploring ideas. So when you don't have any ideas to explore, you can't really write. Kind of like you did your Yoda, you did your Emperor, you did your tiger and your fish and your dog ever, and now you're all done.
Occasionally, I'll see something that'll spark my interest, and I'll think, ooh, I could fold that. And then I stopped doing origami for a while, and then I saw this kind of, it's like a flower thing, but it had flowers coming out, and it was was really cool because I knew how to fold the flower, but I didn't necessarily know how to put the flowers together and then have them popping out of the paper. And it utilized 2 cuts. Mm-hmm. And I spent days and days and days reverse engineering. That's one of my favorite things to do in origami, was to look at pictures and then figure out how they were folded. So I spent so long reverse engineering this like flower pyramid thing, and it took so long. And I was smashing my head against the table.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
That's good.
100%. I love the grind. I finally got it. I have the model sitting in my bedroom.
That's cool.
It's complete, and I know how to fold it now. And that's one of like those passion projects. I love those. And then I didn't fold for a long time. And every once in a while, I have origami paper in my wallet at all times, because if I'm waiting in line or something, I can fold something if I'm bored. I've started doing crochet as kind of a like replacement hobby. I love the feeling of learning and growing your skill. Yeah. And when you start out a new hobby is when the period
very fast.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that feeling. So I'm chasing that right now.
So what activity or hobby would you say is very productive?
What's a productive hobby that I have, or in general?
In general.
Oh, okay, in general. Learning.
Okay, yeah?
Yeah.
What else?
I would say analysis.
Analysis, that's going, yeah.
Yeah. So you can learn about a topic, but if you can write about the topic, it's 10 times better.
That's true. How about like less vague ones, a little bit more specific activities?
Less academic.
Yeah.
Starting your own project, whatever it could be, such as a podcast like you, Miles. This is a very, very good thing for someone to do. Starting a club. Why?
Yeah.
Because, it's coming from you, right? It's stemming from your mind. So you're kind of reaching out into the world and putting this stuff out into the world. And then a podcast is great because you get to hear from all these different people.
That's why I do it.
Exactly. So in a way, it's like, okay, you're recording this podcast so you can put it online for other people to listen to, but you yourself get so much out of it because you get to sit here and talk to people and ask them questions and poke around in their minds and find out what makes them tick. It's an experience that you can get with people in the world, but it's difficult in the classroom to have sustained longer conversations, and you can have them outside of the classroom with your friends, but you only have so many friends that you can have those conversations with. So you have this podcast and you're talking to all these different people you might have not otherwise talked to about things you otherwise might have not talked about, and you learn. And that's very valuable of an experience for you, Miles, despite the fact that you're putting this up for other people to watch.
Yeah. Well, only reason originally why I was up for people to watch is because I just wanted to give you equipment to do a podcast that only you're going to see.
Yeah, so it's a way to get started. And that's just
here's
fine.
a question. So projects. You see, 8th grade year. Maybe I should say 4, but did a year-round project, learned a few things like Photoshop, Illustrator, and SketchUp. Will that be a productive project? I get to use those in real life.
Would that be a productive project to learn those programs?
So, no, I like that not much. More of like the actual project. So basically,
to make
like
the projects.
Catan plus Risk match together. That's the game.
Oh, the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be productive.
I think so.
Okay. See, what would argue it wouldn't be? Since for me, I'm saying like people compare things. It's like if I'm doing it, it's not impressive and it's not productive. Basically, what it is like for me. If I'm doing something, it's not hard and it's not like it's not hard. I shouldn't be doing it. I should be doing something harder. Kind of what it is like for me. So doing that, it's kind of hard. Now it isn't really that hard. I could do it and 3 times the speed now. So was it really that hard? Was it really that productive to some degree? Yeah, to some degree not.
So maybe you need to find a certain challenge level and meet that bar on the activities you pursue to feel stimulated enough. Because if you're not feeling stimulated enough, then is the activity worthy of your time?
Yeah.
I think sometimes a little bit.
I think it's kind of worth my time, but it's kind of not. It'd be like, so would becoming much better at running or in archery be better than becoming better at Illustrator and Photoshop? It's like, I would feel like kind of yeah and kind of nah. I feel like kind of yes because, well, you're improving your your mind and body, kind of your archery, your running, and you're improving discipline. But here's a more fun thing. So is it really like which one would be better to do?
I don't know, Miles. You can do a lot with Adobe programs.
That's true.
You can do a lot. I mean, that opens up a massive skill set.
It does.
I think it's very valuable.
Okay. Here's a fun one. Should we or should we not be hedonists, or is it a blank question?
Yes, I love this question. Hedonism.
There you go.
I've thought about hedonism. It's a terrible thing.
See, I argue I am a hedonist because I do everything that I want to do.
You are a hedonist? Well, okay. We're all chasing hedonism to an extent. I think we're pleasure seekers. We're all chasing pleasure.
It's finer terms. Would hedonism be like the attaining pleasure at the quickest rate possible?
Hedonism to me is pure pleasure all the time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that is a horrible thing.
I think I'm happy all the time, basically. It's like, for me, the true hedonist is just me talking to people all the time, and then I'm quite happy there and giving my time to do my work. And I may be pretty happy since, like, everybody done something for long enough and you just get bored of it. I think that's like drugs. I feel like they're kind of drugs. It's like you do it for long enough and then it's not really the same. You get used to it in your head or whatever, and your mind gets used to it. And it's more of a chore to do it. You get the same highs or whatever. That's kind of how it is. Like, everyone's a true hedonist at some point. I think I'm kind of good at being a hedonist, is that I find something I enjoy and makes me happy for a very long period of time. I think the true hedonism is just to find something that makes you happy for the longest period of time. Since you do true hedonism, well, you do stereotypical hedonism. You're going to do drugs and sex, whatever. You're probably going to live to maybe 30. So, do my way happy for a long period of time. So, are you happier overall? What do you think of that?
I take a much more like a much larger version of that. When I think of hedonism, I think of if you chart your emotions, and who knows how many different emotions there are, complete spectrum. But if you were just to chart your average happiness as life went on, you would find that there are days that it dipped, times that it dipped, and times when it went up. Hedonism to me is maxing out your happiness all the time, and that's what it is. I think what you're talking about is a sustained level of happiness for a long period of time that isn't like maximum pleasure, but sort of a level of comfortability and pleasure.
I argue for me that it would be max happiness. So I feel like if you did things that make you happy all the time, you just become like less happy.
It wouldn't mean anything.
Yeah. Like, also, you just get used to it. So if you find something you can kind of work towards that makes you happy all the time. Like for me, most hedonism thing I would do would be running many miles in the morning, going to the gym, and then going, reading and writing an essay, and then doing something outside, whatever, talking to people, playing a game, watching a movie maybe, and then going to bed. I think my most hedonistic day would just be that.
So would that be a good day?
Yeah, it would be a good day.
Like if your life was filled with those days, would you be satisfied?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at that.
Yeah.
That is a little different than what I would think of as hedonism. To me, that's fulfillment, and that is happiness. Like I'm sure all that stuff makes you happy, but to me, when I think of when you say hedonism and an image pops into my head, I think of like a happy drug society.
Yeah.
Where you're just constantly on a high that never comes down and never wears out.
World.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think we're kind of looking at two different concepts of hedonism.
I think it's more of definitions. So mine would be, argue, like the true happiness sense.
True happiness. So, okay, so you're going to have to define happiness.
Yeah, so true happiness in this case would be like going for something that makes you the happiest. Because I kind of, I had to play Skyrim for 6 hours a day for like 3 months.
You decided to?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So, very kind of hedonistic. I'm just like, wake in the morning, play Skyrim, go to school, come back, play Skyrim. So,
okay.
The point being is that I think I kind of experimented with my own forms of hedonism in my youth, well, more youthful days. And I kind of figured out that that's not really where happiness is. That's not happy. That's just like wasting your time. And so my happiness now would be doing hard things and kind of talking to other people. So it's more of, when one person happy is something that makes me happy. So my version of hedonism would be this. Bob's version of hedonism might be something more stereotypical.
Sure. So would you argue there's a difference?
happiness is. Yeah.
With like the happiness a drug would provide and the happiness completing like a large novel.
Kind of. But more of like you have 5 people, you give them all money and power in the world. You're going to do different things. One person will be happy through complete domination. One person will be happy for like traveling around and doing good things. One person will be happy through tons of drugs, whatever. It changes. One person happy like me and is doing hard things. I think it depends on the person. Like one person's virtual hedonism might be pure sex and drugs. One might be reading novels all the time. I think it's more variable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it changes per person. I mean, I hate to think that some person's like happiest lifestyle is a constant high. I like to think that, achieving your goals would provide a more real sense of happiness. Yeah. Going back to that 6 hours of Skyrim a day thing, that's something I've been figuring out where, too much of a good thing, right? One slice of cake, it's a good slice of cake. 3 slices of cake will make your stomach sick.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been learning. You kind of gotta figure out how much is enough cake to eat before the more starts to affect you in a negative sense.
From my own experience, it's more of like dive really hard into something and then mellow it back out so that way you're happier because, you have all the cake. Like I kind of did as a child. I had all the candy, basically. Well, I love candy, but I had a lot more candy now than I now do. Like I have access to the candy wherever I want to, but I don't use it ever. So I realized like candy is bad after I eat a lot of it. So
it makes you sick. It makes me sick.
As
what do you mean?
It's more of like you eat the same amazing meal over and over again.
Yeah.
You get bored.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I get that.
So be like for Skyrim, I'm bored of my other things, and one thing I don't get bored of is moving on to new things and moving on to harder things.
So the only constant,
the only option to be happy is to do this when we're out. I can find
right?
Very temporary, very not as happy things. Like I'm not happy eating cake, and I am like on my computer editing this podcast or making campaign posters or running. So I'll do those things instead because I'm happier that way.
I would say eat your cake while editing.
I pistachios.
Pistachio, okay.
But I run out of pistachios. I don't like asking for things. So
well, if you get a job, you can buy your own pistachios.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the switching activities, change is important for me. Switching things up. Like I said, I got tired of the origami thing, so now I'm crocheting. I get tired of a lot of food, so I have to eat different foods. Because like you get bored, right? Got to keep life interesting. That's why I do. Sometimes I'll act extremely different from how I act a lot of the time. I mean, a lot of people.
Like when?
Well, okay. There are certain groups of people where I act very extravagantly with, and other people I act far more mellow with. I have a lot of fun acting extravagantly. So much fun. Like my second period creative writing class, I'm very, very extravagant in that class. Very outgoing. And other, they call it. It's called code switching. Like it's a thing people do.
But I definitely do it.
But sometimes I'm just feeling crazy. I'm feeling crazy.
I don't feel crazy. Actually, you know what? Sometimes. I'm cooking dinner for people and we're playing a game at the same time. I'm a bit more crazy.
Sometimes you just gotta act different. It's fun.
It's fun.
Maybe I just like acting a little bit. I was in a couple plays, and I found that I actually enjoyed it. And then there's a sense of like, well, when are you being real?
That's very, very true.
And I think if the real you is someone who acts, then aren't you always being the real you?
True. That's true.
I'm being the version of myself I wish to present to the world in the moment. That makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Like multiple personas and whatnot. Like there's you when you're sad, you when you're happy, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like for instance, for me, there's me and 5th period Spanish, much more calm and formal. Like legitimately, if you want to check how calm and comfortable I am, look at how I speak and how I act. If I have good posture and I'm hands behind my back or whatever, actually I'm happy anyways, but less so. I'm happy. And I use like fancy words or whatever, and you don't use slang. You know what? I'm not really in that space. I'm retreating into myself. So I present this caricature of myself, which is very formal.
Right now?
No.
Oh, in Spanish.
Spanish in the class, whatever.
Sure.
Like I'm around the public, I'm much more formal and cordial and fanciful in my words ever. I might say pretentious, but that's actually true. Like under stress, I actually use more fanciful language. It's funny.
Yeah. No. Seriously, I do the same thing. I'll act really formal sometimes, just to like my peers, because I think it's hilarious. You know.
Yeah.
Good day, sir. How are you today? Oh.
Yeah, I'll give one example.
Pardon me.
So in my English class, it's most of the unit, people I don't even too much care for. It's much more formal and much more Mr. I'm going to sit here quietly and do my work, and I'll tell you what to do later, but move on. And I'm like Sarush, I know David ever, and Chloe. So I'm much more outgoing and whatnot. And they're like very surprised by this because I'll say some slang term and they'll erupt in laughter at it. It's very odd. But it's more breaking character, I guess.
Breaking character is hilariously fun.
True.
You know, I used to not curse a lot, very much at all.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I would say like a curse word because
Yeah.
I knew it would shake things up because it's a breaking character.
True.
If you do things that people don't expect you to do, it's interesting. I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. And I like having fun.
So what characters do you play?
I've played the overly formal student. You know, I don't wear a suit and carry a briefcase, but you could imagine I was.
I would actually. Legitimately, if the suit was in style, I had one, and I had a suitcase as well, and a fedora. I actually have a fedora, but I had a suitcase and a suit I wear all the time if I could. But I look very weird. Like some high school student wearing that.
Yeah.
Well, my dad did actually. Like he would come in better dressed than the teachers in the 70s, and they hated for it.
Oh, that's fun. There's a show called The In-Betweeners. It's a British teen comedy show that I've seen a couple times. I think it's hilarious. But the main character wears a suit and carries a briefcase to school, and he gets made fun of it endlessly for it. That's just his character, you know? That's who he is. So, yeah, there's the formal guy, Party Ethan. He doesn't come out too often.
How do you describe Mr. Party Ethan?
Party Ethan, Jesus. I don't know if anybody's actually ever seen Party Ethan, but he exists. He's tucked in here, way in the back, and someday Party Ethan will come out and rock the world. You know it.
Well, so have you seen Party Ethan, or just like kind of felt him?
I felt him bubbling up. Yeah.
So what would Party Ethan do?
It's very loud, very, very outgoing, and says a lot of crazy things. Having a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Getting crazy. Crazy. I love that. I love being crazy.
So what would crazy be for you?
Just like, I don't know how to explain it. Just having a good time.
Very impulsive?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit impulsive. Just going with the flow, going with what's happening, just embracing it and taking it in stride and having a good time. Because I feel like there's the necessity to do that on occasion because I'm on such good behavior most of the time.
Yeah.
That on occasion I need to break free of that. I need to break free of the monotony of daily life and shake things up. Otherwise, I start freaking out, you know. Sometimes I'll just be sitting in class and I'll look around and I'll just be like, oh my God, I've been doing this every single day for God knows how many days and nothing has changed. And I'll start like shaking a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, I need to change things. I need to freak out. And sometimes I do, and it's really fun. I like seeing the results. I gave a really, really crazy presentation in sports med one day, and I needed that. It helped me. I'd like to do more of that.
See, for me, I can't tell if I'm just like naturally myself from where I don't need to do that, or it's so much ingrained into me that I can't tell the difference between like the persona and me. It go either way, honestly. I think I tend to change and adapt to things very well. I think it's just because my parents divorced around life, and very much. So look at me throughout school. Actually, a good question for you too. But in elementary school, very, very quiet and much more reserved. Basically, formal me, but much more quiet and low self-esteem, whatever. I don't want to say low self-esteem. It just was much more quiet. Like I would stand my ground. I didn't care about that.
Sure.
I just wouldn't do anything. I don't have right answers, but I wouldn't raise my hand.
Yeah.
I'd be very begrudging to it. And as time's gone on, more extroverted and much more, I'll go out there and I'll attack the world, and I'll do what I want to do.
Well, that curve has hit you a lot earlier than it hit me, because my freshman year, where you are now, I was in the state that you were at the beginning of that curve. It's very, a lot quieter, a lot of social anxiety, just scared to like talk to people, and what are they thinking, and I got over that.
How?
I mean, not completely,
Oh.
but
To a degree.
yeah, exactly. So what happened?
Yeah.
What does that? I think there are a number of factors. I continuously put myself in situations where I would be forced
Definitely. Same here.
to public speak and forced to interact with people, so I could essentially force change in myself. And that was purposeful because I wanted to get better at talking to people, and I wanted to be a good public speaker, and it was effective. I joined ASB. I gave all the presentations. I love giving presentations.
It's fun.
It is fun.
I gave a 20-minute presentation on the Gulag Archipelago from memory. And bullet points. I gave a 15-minute one on The Stranger by Camus. Very fun ones. I'm looking for the bullet points. I'm like, what the heck does this mean? Oh, there you go.
If you're passionate about it, that's great.
Yeah.
Presentations are great when you're passionate about it, which is why I love being able to choose the subjects. So it's that kind of, I'd force myself in those situations. And then I think getting a job towards the end of my sophomore year when COVID hit, I started working at Safeway.
Independent, right? More independent, kind of?
Yeah. So now I'm talking to all these customers and got all these coworkers, and that just skyrocketed my confidence.
I think for that was actually running. So
running?
See, my brother, he's much more. As like, he would go to school in state, and he is. I'm going to school out of state.
You want to get out of Washington?
No, I like Washington, but it's more of like, there's such cool stuff outside. I want to go do that.
Oh, you want to explore?
I'm much more confident in my abilities to do things. I think it's because, in sixth grade I was running to and from school. So when you're running, you're kind of by yourself. You're independent. You have to make decisions. You're there, and you can move yourself around. I have mobility for longer than he's had mobility of a car. He feels constrained by having a car. I don't. I think,
interesting.
It's an hour bike ride. You know what? I'll do that. It's a 10-minute bike ride. I'll do that. See, for me, it's like I have the time to kill. I have the will to do it. I can do what I want to do. And I don't think it has that kind of mindset. I think it's close to that, but not to the extreme.
So what I love is what you can do with that mindset. Because once you surpass that social anxiety you have about talking to people, or at least that I had, the things you can do and the people you can talk to. One of my favorite things is if just nothing's really going on in a classroom, to just talk to the kid next to me, or maybe someone I don't sit next to, maybe someone I've never talked to before, and just ask them about things. You can find out some really cool things. You can have some really cool conversations. But if, a lot of people don't take the step to have those conversations. They just only talk to the people that they've always talked to. And I can't blame them. It takes a little bit of forethought to go out of your way, out of your typical pattern of behavior, and talk to someone you never talked to. But the rewards.
Immense.
Yeah.
Here's a final question.
Sure.
Who is the most beneficial person for you to talk to?
Who has been?
Yeah.
What do you mean by most beneficial? Define your terms.
Let's see. Like, who's the most, let's do two categories so far.
Okay.
Most interesting, and the person that's like, if they were gone and talked to them, or had like those moments with them, you'd be in a worse spot. Like, you wouldn't be as well off as you are.
Can I give a couple answers?
Sure.
Okay. It's just not cool to just choose one, Then I'd be shortchanging the other.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most important people I talk to is probably my best friend right now, Julia Hardy. We've talked every single morning before school. It's why I try to get here by 8:30, so I can walk around and talk with her. And then the conversations have outside of school and we hang out are really good. And I think we've learned a lot from each other. I tend to make friends with good conversationalists.
Makes sense.
Because I am a conversationalist. And I like talking to people. I really love talking to people. I also really love listening. I think it's more fair to say I enjoyed talking with you rather than I enjoyed, I enjoyed talking with you instead of talking to you. Yeah, that's what the distinction. Same. It's better to say I liked talking with you instead of I enjoyed talking to you. To you, that's the emphasis on the two. Because I don't just want to talk at people. I want to have a conversation. We both get things out of it. All right, so my friend that I talk to every day before school, big influence. Who else? Mr. Snodgrass, my English teacher, my junior year, and then first semester this year. I talk to him after school oftentimes because we think about a lot of the same things, and we can have really cool conversations about that. So it's really great to have that connection with a teacher, someone with so many more years of life experience. He's also really into films, so we talk about movies a lot too. I mentioned the camping trips I went on to reset my mind the last 2 summers. The person that I went on those camping trips with is someone that I met at Safeway. He was my coworker, and he quit, and then a lot later I quit. But we're still friends, and when we hang out, we have a lot of the same like spiritual ideas, if that makes sense. We talk a lot about our life's purpose, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Floaty ideas.
Very good person to go camp with.
Exactly. So hanging out with people like that who can talk about what I call the floaty ideas is great.
It's true. Now, who's the most interesting person like that you've met?
Most interesting person?
Yeah.
It's a tough one, actually.
Like, who do you like seen or just like kind of like talk to a little bit and like, gosh darn, I have to leave.
I have to leave?
No. It's like no. I was asking any character. So like, you talk to them for like 10 minutes or so.
It's a shame I have to leave.
Yeah, it's like, well, gosh darn, I have to leave now. And it's like you go back to the person like, why can't I go talk to them some more? It's a shame. Like, who's giving me that kind of a feeling?
I say the same guy on the hiking trips.
I see.
People like that you can talk to endlessly.
That's true.
It's a shame when the time has to come to a close because it can't last forever and you have to go to sleep.
That's true. Well, enough drugs.
Drugs changes things. To be fair. All right. What else you got, Miles?
I was thinking I was going to do more of that. How many friends should you have? Like, you know, feeling, how many should you have?
There's layers to that question. There's layers to every question, Miles.
Well, explore all of them.
Sorry?
Well, explore them all. You can do
okay.
bottom,
so
top, and 1 and 2.
There's circles, right? You know, you have your very close friends, and then, you know, you have your kind of lesser close friends, and then you have the people you see in class every day, but you don't talk to outside of school, and then you have the people you, like, barely know.
Yeah.
And there's like, I'm not actually going to answer that question, because there are very, very qualified people who have ran studies on this sort of thing, and I've, like, gotten the numbers.
No, just for you yourself. Your lived experience.
In my little tiny bubble of experience in this world, I've always wanted a circle of friends, in a way. Like in the movies, you have like the 4 people or 6 people or whoever, and they're always hanging out together.
Yeah.
I haven't never had that, but it hasn't been like to the extent that I would want it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm just fine with the relationships I have right now with the people I know, and maintaining several independent relationships that have ties together is great. But I've always kind of wanted to experience that group.
Be good.
Hang out. But because I don't have that right now, and I mostly have just independent relationships, I would peg the number of very strong independent relationships to like 2. 2.
Yeah.
Very strong.
What qualities do they have?
What qualities?
Yeah.
Do the friendships have? Well, trust. Trust is important, and trust comes from honesty. And then, you know, being there for each other, having their back. I mean, all the empty words.
That's not great. It's more of like you're relying upon that person to know what you're saying.
Oh, I like that. Sometimes you find these people and they understand what you're saying, or they understand exactly what you mean, and not that other people can't. So if you kind of can find the person who can reconcile their life experiences with yours, that's a really, really cool thing. Because you say something, you're like, I don't know if I really said that too well. And they're like, no, I get it.
How about the people themselves? Like, what are the most common characteristics of your friends?
Like I said, conversationalists, thinkers, people who think. I think people who talk about things that are not important. I don't know if I said that right. But like,
are important?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to say that. Because I don't just want to talk about important things. I love talking about not important things too.
Movies.
Movies, yeah, exactly. So there's a balance, right? If you're never going to be able to talk about like important things, like I need that stimulation. I need that. But also thinking about not important things is fun too. You got to be able to have fun, right? So it's a balance. It's kind of hard. I've never really thought about the traits of my friends before, but if you think about it, like there's certain kinds of people you make friends with and there's others you don't. What are the reasons behind that? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a little thing. I should ask you this question.
Sure.
It's a variation, but let's just say one of your close friends, and then it's like, you know, they name them, but does it describe them?
I don't know. Is that very cool to do? Podcast?
I guess so. It depends. As more, well, let's see. Why would not be cool? And I'm curious. For me, it's an instant question, but for some people, they think they have like sinister intentions at times.
I don't know. Actually, I've always liked it when people describe me to them because it allows me a window into how other people see me.
Same.
And that allows me to think about myself and how I am, and I love that. So if somebody says something to me and they're like, oh, Ethan, it's so great that you did this, or, you know, I've always liked that you're like this, and I'm like, oh, I've never thought about that. Thanks, that's really cool. Because sometimes self-reflection is hard, or you don't think to self-reflect. There's like you have to prompt yourself to do it, but if you never do, then you never will. So self-reflection is important, and I should do that more. I think there's a question on there about keeping a journal.
It is. Let's see. Where is it? Yes. Did you or do you maintain a journal, and why or why not?
I don't, but I always wish that I wish that I do.
Mm-hmm.
What
would you write?
Would I write?
Yeah.
You know, my thoughts. You know, what happened? How do I feel about what happened? There's not really a lot of major drama in my life, but you know, there are things that occur that I have emotions about, and being able to analyze those emotions is a healthy thing instead of just having them stuck in your headspace or talking to your friends about them, which is good. But a journal is, I'm also very nostalgic in that I'm very excited for when I'm older to look back on these years and like think about them and enjoy them. I love that. I love coming of age movies, that kind of thing. And I am coming of age.
There you go.
But so, you know, I think about, and I hate getting my photograph taken, but I want a lot of photographs, you know, like I want the memories. It's kind of a little contradictional, but a journal would be great because it's so pure, right? It's your thoughts that you're just putting down in the moment. And I have writings, you know, things that I've written that you just have to get out. And I'm sort of keeping a collection of them so I can look back on them, which is good. In my creative writing class, we have a notebook, and each day we have to write stuff. And I write the most randomest stuff, just what's ever in my head, what's happened. But I think that'll be really cool to read when I'm older.
Definitely.
If I can read the handwriting.
So what's the random thoughts that you like keep it in your house ever?
What's what?
Like what's the most random thought you've had that you decided to write down? Or like what's the odd one or an interesting one?
Just off the top of my head. Oh geez, I don't know. Just a random thought. I've had some weird ones, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if I can say all of them out loud.
Anything.
Jeez, that's hard. It's harder in the moment, you know.
It really is.
I used to think about that kind of stuff a lot more when I was younger, to tell you the truth. I used to write down stuff a lot more and just write all sorts of things. And it's kind of a shame that I don't do that as much anymore. Sometimes I think about why, and maybe I'm just busier. Maybe like life is starting to encroach on me, and it's like now I have all these responsibilities, although I don't really.
It might be business, since my own experience is that over the summer, I could sit outside and like think of like multiple story ideas. I had like a novel basically written like in my head, kind of. I took time to write out every novel. And then as I moved across school and became more busy, I always complain about being not busy enough. Now that I am busy, it's like, you know what? I kind of like ideas. And I had such good ideas when I had nothing to do. But be like annoyed that I was busy. I was not busy. So maybe it's the business. Maybe you should be less busy.
It's true.
Take your camping.
I fully believe in boredom.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of boredom.
Yeah, I do think that.
And it's a shame because in our society, we kind of, we say being bored is bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. We're like, you shouldn't be bored. And if you start feeling bored, you should do something so you don't feel bored. You know, the phones in our pockets are constant distraction, but also they're a way to eliminate boredom whenever. And I don't like that. I think boredom is extremely healthy and it's very good for coming up with ideas. Boredom, you know. I used to ride the bus home. I loved riding the bus. You know, you're in the morning, and it's just like, in the morning bus is always just absurdly warm. Like it is steamy in there, I swear to God. And then I'm listening to music and just let your mind wander because somebody else is driving. But now I drive to school, or more recently I've started riding my bike. And my thoughts still flow, but I can't, you know, you can't really write anything down on a bus or a bike or a car. And so I think some of the points in my life where there was boredom, there isn't boredom anymore. When I was my freshman year, I'd come to school and I'd just hang out in my first period classroom until class started, just thinking.
Yeah.
But now I talk with friends, and that's great. But that piece of boredom is gone. And I don't think there's enough boredom in my life. Do you?
Mine personally? Probably not, no. I think it is. But, you know, that's why you have gardening.
Have what?
Gardening.
Gardening?
Yeah. So I did story because I work like 2 hours in the sun gardening. And so I feel nothing else to do, so I just follow random tangents. But for boredom, are you bored when you're thinking of an idea?
No.
Or are you, I think boredom's like a gateway drug.
Is what? When you're drunk?
No. Boredom's like a gateway drug.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm just making a joke.
Okay.
Yeah. But see, the intent's there. They said that marijuana is a gateway drug to other drugs. Boredom is a drug.
Oh.
Boredom is a gateway to ideas.
Ideas. Boredom is the gateway drug to ideas. I like that. You don't have to, but it's helpful to be bored. And then, you know what I really like?
Yeah.
I love just sitting in a place and observing. Don't do it nearly as much as I would like to, just because it's like, what, you're going to go sit somewhere for an hour? Like, society, like, it feels like something I shouldn't do. You know, like I should be doing something useful. But that is useful, you know? You can get stuff out of that. If you sit for 5 minutes, you won't notice very much. But you sit for an hour, you start to hear things. Sitting outside last night, just kind of waiting, and just waiting. And then eventually, I live right by LBA, so the park guys come every night to close the gate.
Yeah.
But I've never really seen them do it. Because I'm always out. I'm not just sitting there waiting for them to see them close the gate. But the guys were closing the gate as I was sitting outside my house. I couldn't see them, but I could hear these two guys, these like parks and rec guys, like yelling at each other. I don't mean having an argument, but they were just being loud, so I could hear them. And they were like having a cool conversation about like, how's it going? Oh, it's a clear night, isn't it? Yeah, I wish every night was like this. And it's like, you know, it's my daughter's birthday soon. And it's like, oh yeah, she's turning 3. I'm like hearing this conversation that I was just not meant to hear. And it's the greatest thing in the world. I love stuff like that.
I do it all the time.
Yeah?
Like, yeah. So what I do, either I'm much more extravagant and talkative, kind of like this, or much more, I kind of sit there and maybe write and listen to your conversation across the room.
Eavesdropping is great.
No, it's more of like, you see, for me, it's best to like write at times, maybe in silence or like rain. Like people talking is kind of nice. It's like,
as a background noise?
Yeah. So what I do is I can kind of like write or draw or work. So I can hear your conversation across the room. Since I live in a 2-story house, and the house, so in my room, it's like right here. This is the kitchen, so it's like across the house. I can hear a conversation from my room in the kitchen.
Sure.
So that's kind of how good my hearing is. So I see people talking, and I'm like, that's kind of neat. And I go on my day.
Because it kind of gives you something to like think about while you're doing your thing. Yeah. You know what else I like? Yeah. So you think about your school day here at school. You got the 6 periods, and you go from one classroom to the next. Your like pattern of where you walk is pretty set, right?
Sure.
Like every day I pretty much take the same paths at the same times to get where I'm going to go. I talk to the same people. Okay. What I love is shaking it up a little, and then being in a different place at a different time and taking a different way to get to a different place, you see all these new faces because you don't realize it, but you're very used to seeing the same faces as you go back. You think, oh, it's just like a bunch of random faces you're seeing, but it's the same ones at the same times every day. So if you go to a different place and take a different route, you're suddenly observing all these different patterns, because that's what they are. Everybody's got their pattern. You see these different patterns people are taking, and I think that's really cool. Like one time, I was taking like a mental health day, and it was a few weeks ago. It was the first one I've ever taken, which is a crime that I feel like I couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, why?
Why?
Yeah, why?
I wook up and I was just not having it.
I say, why would it be a crime that you feel like you could not do that?
Oh, because the school system and just the overall environment had kind of pounded it into my brain that I can't, like, feeling overwhelmed and being completely burnt out is not a reason to not keep pushing yourself.
I see.
And taking a day off school is not an acceptable thing if you're not sick. But if you're not feeling healthy in your mind, then taking a day off to recoup and to feel better is the healthiest option.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think we don't view mental health like that, like a cold. Yeah. And I think that's a shame, and it's a crime that I felt like I couldn't do that until my senior year.
Yeah. So what did you observe?
All right. So I'm taking mental health today, right? But I have to come into school because I have to do something after school. So here I am. I'm coming in through, the Commons entrance, but it's not the ones with like the ASB office. It's like
the side one.
The side one.
Yeah.
Then nobody monitors.
By the bikes, right?
The bike lock. Yeah. The bike rack. Yeah. So I come in through that, and the bell is just rung, and people are streaming out. And usually I go from Fab's room to that and like exit and out to my car or my bike, and that's the route I take. But this time I'm going the opposite direction, and I'm coming up as everybody's going down. And I can't tell you like the emotion I felt, but it was just like I am seeing something new. I'm seeing it from a different perspective. It's the same thing, but I'm coming up instead of down. It just was really cool.
Oh, I'll do that. I could probably get out of school 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I would recommend it.
Okay, back to mental health thingy. See, for me, I honestly put myself complain about the system, like our age ever, like the darn school system, capitalist system.
Capitalist system?
Yeah. The European system, American system, is like all the systems, they're kind of pounding down on you. But for me, it's not that. The only reason I don't take mental health days is, one, I'm pretty happy most of the time. I'm pretty good most of the time. But it's more of that. It's like, do I really deserve it? And I say, well, if I can't make it for the day, and maybe I do, but it's a challenge in making it for the day. The challenge in overcoming it. Maybe it's because I haven't had any reason to do it. I hold this opinion. But it's not society that's drilled into me. It's my own mind that's arrived at the same conclusion. And it's like, could is mental health day. But that's like pretty darn bad when you do it. It hasn't been that bad. But it's like, me decided that you cannot take this day off. You cannot do this relaxation. It is wasteful, and you should do what is productive and what is better. What do you think of that? Society not being the one driving you, but your own mind being the one telling you the same thing.
No, 100%. It's definitely, like, the pressure to do well, it didn't come from my parents.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are very pressured by their parents to get good grades, and I think that's horrendous and disgusting. Like, we should be encouraging people to learn, not to get straight A's. It's just way too much pressure. So I'm completely against that. But a lot of people are pressured from their parents. And then I think there's a general culture of, like, competition and trying to do well here at OHS.
There is.
What's that?
There is?
Yeah, there is. I think so.
Can you give an example?
Well, it's just like the AP culture and just having, these tests. And I feel like there's a drive for people to do well. And, I mean, this is a 4-year kind of track school.
Yeah.
Like, people come here to go to 4 years. Not, obviously, it's not everybody. And we encourage, there's some level of encouragement from the Career and Counseling Center to tell people to go to apprenticeships and everything. But our main export is 4-year universities. So there's pressure there to do exceedingly well in high school so you can get into a good 4-year. And I think the pressure exceeds the level of attempting to get you to love learning and gets you into the mindset of trying to get good grades, which is negative. But so what am I saying? Mental
health and like grade A culture.
The grade A culture. And so, your own self.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there's that culture at OHS, which maybe had a marginal effect on me. I don't know. I don't really feel it a whole lot. Like, I don't feel like I need to do well because the school expects me to do well or wants me to do well. I think it's me. I think I've personally been putting all this pressure on myself these 4 years, which isn't healthy to a certain extent. And coming to that realization makes me realize that nothing bad will happen if, I don't get straight A's, And for me, it's like if taking the mental health day will better serve you than going through the day would have. Like if you choose not to take a mental health day, that day you wake up and just feel horrible and overwhelmed and burnt out. And then you go to school and you just get nothing out of the school day. It just makes you feel even worse. Then it actually would have benefited you more to stay home so that you could come back to school the next day revived.
I think for me, it's more of never had a strong enough feeling not to come to school really. And so I could just argue myself that, you know what, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun even to see how far you can push yourself. And that part of it is it, but part of it's not. From my memory, I was like, staying very lethargic, not myself, whenever. And I said to myself, well, Miles, you gotta do it. You can't give up your goals. Oh, it was the goals. There you go. It was the goals. I was like, you can either sacrifice your goals, or you can sacrifice your own self. I'll sacrifice myself for my goals to some degree. I think that's what it was. Yeah, there you go. It wasn't actually. It was the goals. I don't know. It's odd.
Cool.
Actually, for your inner critic. So
it's harsh.
Yeah. How would you describe it? Is it fair?
To an extent.
Okay. When has it been not fair?
Okay. When it's not fair is when I have awkward social interactions. That plagued me for a while. I mean, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You say something and the person doesn't hear something, or you like yell their name and they're walking down the hallway and everybody looks at you weird because they didn't reply.
Yeah.
And then you just feel kind of crummy. Well, that's not fair because that happens to everybody and it happens almost every single day. So I started telling myself, all right, Ethan, you get 3 awkward social interactions a day and then you're trudging into like sad territory. Okay? Because I say, all right, if you can, I feel like that's average to have like 3 kind of awkward little mishaps a day.
Yeah.
And so telling myself that makes me feel a lot better because it used to be like that would happen and I'd just be like, Ethan, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? It's like, no, it just happens. So now, whenever that happens, some kind of awkward little minor social thing, I just tell myself, all right, 1 down. Because that's a given. Yeah. It's a given. And if I accept that as a given in my life, I can't be upset on me about it because I knew it was going to happen.
I think actually pretty similar approach here. But it's not like it's going to happen. It's more of, it isn't worth really worrying about. So my critique myself, if it was always actually been right, and I think the times to been wrong or too harsh per se. I feel like I can meet standards pretty. I can meet standards a bit harder. Like for social interactions in particular, at least for me, awkward stuff happens. I kind of let it roll off, and I think to myself, well, that's kind of dumb. Miles, you're a bit dumb there. See, for me, it's the same between my critic and myself. And it's just me being like sad versus my critic being like, well, Miles, you should not feel bad for that. That's just how life is. That's what my critic says.
Okay.
I think yours says like, Ethan, it's not how life is. You can do better. Is that kind of how it is?
A little bit.
Okay. That's same with Ethan. How do you interact with others? Like, what do you notice about people?
Sorry, say the first part again.
So how do you interact with others? Like, you meet someone, what do you do with them? Do you like say, Bob here, he's wearing a hat, wearing a glove in one hand, and another, maybe say X to him or Y? Or do you go much more into it, just like rush into it, no thought, say what's on top of your head? What's the spot for you?
If I'm meeting someone new?
Yeah.
I introduce myself, say, Ask their name, like, how's it going? Strike up a conversation, see if you can go somewhere. It happened at Costco once. I was ordering a pizza, and fair warning, you should always call ahead when you order Costco pizza, because if you go up there and buy a whole pizza from the food court, it takes a while to get it. But if you call ahead, you can just go there. Yeah. It takes me 15 minutes to drive to Costco, and, am I going to wait half an hour to 45 minutes even if it, driving there and back and then waiting for the pizza? Anyway, this was before I learned that you could call ahead. So I'm buying the pepperoni pizza. Because $10 pizza, are you kidding me? It's so economical.
I guess so, but for me personally, it'll be like, people have to convince me that they should buy me a hot cocoa. Or like anything, basically. For me, it'll be, I'll go home and I'll make some of the food that's there, and when nothing's left, then I'll buy something. And that's kind of me. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm really wanting pizza.
Yeah.
So I'm buying this pizza, and like I said, it takes a while to get the pizza. So people are kind of standing around waiting for their orders to come in. And, of course, all the, churros come first, and you got to wait for your pizza. And I'm standing next to this kid. The kid looks like he's in high school. I'm kind of standing there. And I do this in a lot of social circumstances, but this is just one specific example. So I'm kind of standing there, and I'm like, I know that this is going to take a while. I know that.
Yeah.
I also know that I have not a whole lot on my person to alleviate my boredom.
Yeah.
And I won't look at my phone.
Same.
I hate doing that, especially in public.
Definitely.
Head down kind of thing. I just feel like I could be doing something better.
Yeah.
So I turn to the guy next to me, and I'm like, what'd you order? The guy's like, I got a pizza. I'm like, hey, I got a pizza too. I'm like, what's your number? He's like 191 or something. I'm like, hey, I'm 190. Bro, you're my pizza buddy. And so we just strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
We start out by talking about food court stuff, and then we just talk, human connection. Eventually I find out he goes here, and he saw me, he recognized me because this was like the day after the assembly.
Oh, okay.
Which we were both in.
Oh, that's fine.
And so he recognized me, like, hey, were you in the assembly? I'm like, yeah. Do you go to Oli? And he's like, yeah. And now we're like, all right, now we have more of a connection.
Yeah.
And so the time flew by faster because I'm talking to this guy and we're having a good time talking, and it's better for both of us.
Yeah.
But I could have just stood there for 15 minutes doing nothing. So what I would say is strike up a conversation whenever possible.
Now, what do you know about yourself as you're speaking?
Try to be very polite. Try to be exceedingly polite.
And why is that? How about party, Ethan?
How about party, Ethan?
Yeah, is he polite?
That's a different case. But me, when I'm talking to someone, especially for the first time, very cordial, very polite, because I want to make it feel good.
Yeah.
I want to, good first impression. And I like to make people feel good about themselves. So I try not to be like a jerk. I try to be really, really nice because it makes people happy. And I like making people happy.
As a fun question, a bit more specific. So, what thoughts are going through your head as you're speaking in this interview?
I'm analyzing what they're saying. And I'm trying to figure out how into this conversation are they.
Yeah.
Do they want to be talking to me, or do they want me to buzz off?
See.
If they want me to buzz off, then I will.
Same.
Some people don't want to strike up a conversation, or they just want to be left with thoughts, and that's totally fine. But you kind of got to feel it out for yourself. I will listen to what they're saying and figure out if there's anything I can latch onto to talk about. I kind of start from my bases,
What are those?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, what's going on? Or maybe I'll have questions I ask them, like, what are you thinking about? Or maybe occasionally I'll do something like even deeper, like, what's like a major thought you had in the last 5 days or something like that? What's something you've been thinking about or plaguing your mind?
Yeah, I asked you what's moral codes they aspire to and what made them.
That's a good one.
So that was a bit too much for most people.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't know it's coming. It's kind of like, whoa. But just finding things you can both talk about instead of just like you doing all the talking.
Now what do you think other people think about as they're talking?
What do I think other people are thinking about?
Yeah.
I don't know. They could be thinking about anything. They could be thinking like, do I have spinach in my teeth? Who knows what they're thinking about? I don't have the keys to other people's minds.
How about those you know really well? Can you kind of pinpoint to a certain degree, kind of see into the darkness of their mind as to what they're thinking about? Like, you know well enough to kind of guess.
Probably thinking, I like this kid. This kid's all right. You know, I think humor is a big thing.
That's true.
Like, most of the conversations I find that go well are conversations where we're both laughing. Mm-hmm. Humor is a good social lubricant.
It's true. Now, would you say that you developed a sense of humor over time to kind of help with conversation, or you always have your big boisterous laugh?
Oh, do you know
Yeah.
my big boisterous laugh?
I mean, quite well.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you should mention my laugh.
It's a good one.
Well, you know, I appreciate that, Miles. I've gotten compliments on my laugh. I have like a variety of them.
I do.
They come out depending on the mood I'm in.
I mean, 5 or 3 or more.
3 to 5 good different laughs,
Yeah.
I'd say. But I have, you know, my one really big one, and I laugh really loud.
That's true.
It's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't.
Yeah, it's kind of
You can't choose your laugh.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's just who you are.
Yeah.
I think laughs are really cool to think about. Everybody has their cute little laugh, you know, and you should never make fun of somebody for their laugh, because
I agree.
it's like one of the most genuine emotions, because the laugh overtakes you. It's so honest.
Yeah, you can't fight while you're laughing.
Yeah. I mean, you can try.
It's funny sport.
If you're playing sport, okay.
So like you're boxing, but you like hands is kind of tickling with feathers.
Funny.
It's funny.
So laughing, okay. Sometimes people think my laugh is fake because it sounds like I'm saying ha 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 sometimes.
You are?
A little bit. Depends on, you know, the laugh.
Yeah.
But, you know, and my laugh has changed over time.
Yes.
But my laugh used to very much sound like a fake laugh, but it's not. Like, that's just my genuine laugh. Kind of funny. What are you thinking about?
Now, does that apply to other emotions that you have? Like people think you're being faking some emotions even when you're not?
I don't think so. I think it's just a laugh.
At least for me, I can be thinking in my head or whatever, but my face will be completely stoneless, stone, or just like calm, whatever. And it's like, good job. And I'm like, it's fake. Or I'll be like, that's too bad. Like, that's fake.
Good job, you stoic.
I don't know. I think it's just because for a long time I'm like, you know what, Miles? You should aspire to be a stone in the wind or in the waves, ever. You should be a pillar which others can lean upon. And so that means kind of emotion. So basically, change it over time to do that. So now it's kind of undoing part of that. I think it's kind of what I'm doing now.
You're undoing that?
Well, part of it. It's like meeting a better balance, I think.
It's important.
It's like you can be stoneless. You can be very, you can be a stone, or you can be heavy. Actually, that's not fair.
Hold on.
That's not fair. I was happy. I was happy, actually. I'm good being alone. So, like, for me, I'm social, but if you put me alone anywhere, somewhere ever, I'll be pretty fine doing that. I know. Yeah. I adjust fast enough to where I'll be happy with doing that. But quick changes, not my favorite thing. I'll make do.
Quick changes?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, after the interview, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna walk home. I'm like, that's too bad. I should talk more. We've been good fun. But a longer change. It's like, you know what? School ends. I'm in the summer all by myself. That's most of summers, basically, up until recently. I'm in the summer by myself. I'm completely content being by myself. It's like I get used to it very quickly, faster most, I think. And so what that did with the stone, or my emotions, is that when I was younger, I didn't want to be hurt by anything ever. So I wouldn't do much. And, well, don't be hurt. Well, how do you not be hurt by things? You don't show any pain or anything of the sort. So then you are completely fine. You're going to not embarrass yourself more. You're going to put on something that's going to make others go past you, almost in a sense. And so I kind of carry that from elementary school onward. And as time's going on, I kind of become much more myself, much more emotive, I guess.
It's good.
How about you? Always been emotive or less so?
Far more
Emotive.
emotional and outgoing than I was a few years ago. In part because I'm comfortable around people.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with these people for so many years. I'm comfortable being myself around them and being more like boisterous and crazy around them, because I know they know me and I know them, and they won't like look at me poorly for it.
Oh, interesting little thing. So over there is that I actually realize unconsciously I assume other people know me. Like, see, my style of humor, like I told multiple times. I don't have any administrative people, but like people around me. So I take extremes and compare them to non-extreme things. Yeah. So like Hitler, communism, murder, there you go. And like miles. Right the finger. But they don't actually tell me. So I keep running into the wall, not knowing that it actually is a wall. So yeah. I have to achieve the people around me not know me. I like they've known them for 12 years.
See, in my creative writing class, we write the stuff every morning, and then we share it with our table groups. Yeah. And I've written some pretty messed up stuff, and some stuff that are like, dude, why did you write that? And if they weren't those people that I'm such good friends with, then probably go differently. Yeah. But they know me, and they know.
Can you give an example?
Oh, okay. Do you know what Hellraiser is?
I've heard of it.
Hellraiser, Clive Barker.
I know actors. Just going to the plot.
Created. So Hellraiser is like, there's this cube, and then if you unlock the cube, like these Cenobites, which are like these not devil creatures, but like these creatures come from another dimension, and basically the dimension they come from is they take you, and then it's like pain mixed with sexual pleasure.
This one, yeah, I got it.
That's
I watched a character analysis of it.
Yeah, Hellraiser. Yeah. So it's disgusting. I think the movie is disgusting, but it's like this. It's like pleasure, but like hell. Yeah. It's so weird and so gross. But I wrote a piece about it one morning, and I wrote in quite detail, kind of talking about Hellraiser and that kind of thing. And they were like, "Oh, Ethan, that's disgusting." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's what I'm thinking about." Yeah. A lot of times, I love horror movies. I love horror movies so much, and not into true crime or anything. So I'm not. It's not like that. I like the fun stuff. Yeah. And the messed up stuff. But I write a lot of messed up stuff. And if people didn't know me and didn't know that I was into horror movies and that kind of stuff, they'd think I was a pretty like messed up individual. Yeah. Like my haiku, you can find, or it's not a haiku, but like no, it was a haiku. Rats. Right? Rats. Did I show it to you? Yeah. It's funny, and my friend Brooklyn drew a little rat on it, but it's pretty gross. I think it was like agony thrashing on the stone. Yeah. Rats chewing at their flesh, like moving does little to throw them off or something like that. But I like messed up stuff. I
have a final question for you, Mr. Messed Up, Ethan.
Sure.
How would you break someone?
Whoa, what? How would I break someone?
Yes.
Like, break them?
Yeah.
Like, mentally?
Yeah. No longer are they themselves, but a corpus that's alive but dead.
But they're alive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you'd have to have I'd have to have complete control of their environment. Is that a given?
Yes.
That's a given, okay.
G time.
Let's see. I would test... Oh, that's hard. Because, like, think about Deadpool, all right? Have you seen Deadpool?
I'm not, but I've read some of the comics.
They take him, his name's Wade, I think. They take Wade and they torture him. They inject him with something that'll give him a superpower, but they have to torture him to get the superpower out of him. And so there's, like, this torture facility that they put all these people through. And, like, everybody, and eventually they turn the people into slaves, like superhero slaves. Yeah. But they, like, the people break there. Yeah. But Wade doesn't break. So maybe there are some people that eat no matter how much you torture them. Oh, actually, I know how I would do it.
How?
Have you seen Black Mirror?
Not all of them.
Black Mirror is really cool. There's this one technology that allows you to take a human consciousness and insert it into a digital realm. Yeah. And so one of like the punishments that they would use for people in the Black Mirror series is they would take the consciousness, put it in a digital realm, and then
speed of time.
Yeah, exactly. So you have eternity. You can have someone spend like 1 million years, and then, but it'd be like a minute or a second in real time, and that's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
To be stuck with your own mind for that long, I mean, it would drive you to insanity. Yeah. So that's
the best analogy I have for it. And I find this analogy is interesting. I'm going to say a bit of a collector of these analogies is You have your long marble stone that goes on across the entire world.
Okay.
And there's one crow. This crow goes to sleep for 100 years, but on one day every 100 years, he comes out and he pecks at once. And eventually he's gone. That's the beginning.
I see.
Yeah, that's like my analogy of like an infinity.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Miles.
Sounds good.
You said that was the last question, right?
No.
Oh, no?
No.
There's more?
No, there's one question. See, you didn't.
Oh,
okay, so,
I misheard
no,
you.
So no in infinity.
Okay.
It's in the real world. How do you do it?
How would I do what? Oh, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Well, theoretically, you could do that in the real
You
world
could-
because
you
it's
could.
like a
Sure, you-
future advanced
Okay,
technology.
besides
Okay.
infinity.
So you feel like I cheated the question
Yeah.
a bit.
Well, kind of. Not really. It's a good response.
Thank you.
And it's each one. Pull most people on that. Probably very few are going to answer with an infinity.
Well, it's not infinity. It's like almost
Basically. Practically.
Infinity. You approach infinity.
Yeah.
What torture methods would I use? How would you break them? You'd have to do it psychologically.
It's true.
You can physically harm someone as much as you want, but
Have to be alive.
yeah, they have to be alive, and it's hard to break someone physically. You got to break them mentally because you're trying to mentally break them.
Yeah.
So you'd have to figure out what it is that makes them tick and what it is that makes them feel. You know, do they have? This is so messed up.
Family.
Do they have family, and how can you leverage that family
Yeah.
to break them? I'm trying to think. I've definitely seen people break in films, like really sad things. So like there's this part in the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, where Katniss is running through the forest, and then she hears, I think they're called mockingjays or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
and they're birds that like speak like human,
Yeah.
and what they're cawing is the sounds of like her mother and her sister screaming, and whoever is with her like in the Catching Fire book is like, hey, don't worry, Katniss, like it's not actually them. And Katniss says, but how did they get the recordings? So the thought of the idea of those recordings existed makes you realize that they must, maybe they tortured them to get those screams. I think like realizations can be really crazy.
Okay.
Instead of just seeing them being tortured, coming to the realization that they may have been tortured to produce those sounds is like crazy.
Okay, what else?
You want me to keep going?
Well, I thought it was a question for maybe like 10 minutes or so, hearing there across my past 3 years ever. It's like, here's what other people think of it. So, how do you do it? You have to give me a step-by-step breakdown.
Me?
Yeah. Let's see. Because you see, the question is not actually a question about how to break someone. It's about what you think is valuable to people and what drives them, what makes them tick. Here, let's say you have to break yourself to make it easier.
That does make it easier, actually. If I had to break myself, I start thinking about like my family and my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I start thinking like bad things happening to them would kill me a little bit on the inside. And then like extreme physical deprivation, like starvation, the brink of starvation. Like if you were given just enough to survive and then had to watch your friends and family die in really horrific ways. Or here's what you do. You would manipulate the system such that you were responsible for their deaths in some capacity.
There you go.
That happens. One of my favorite like miniature genres in horror movies is like the Death Games one.
Oh, yeah.
We were playing Death Games, and if you lose, you die or something like that. I love those. I think they're very creative and fun. Yeah. But oftentimes what will happen is somebody else will die at your hands. It's not really your fault because the system manipulated you to do that. But you're like the reason they died. And it's like, oh, that would break you. You're like, oh, I killed them. Take away someone's humanity. That's how you can kill them. There's a great series called Alice in Borderland. And it goes back to that killer games thing. That's really cool. But
are they cannibals?
No.
Okay. Wrong one. Okay.
Yeah, no, different one. But you have to play these games, and there's multiple parts where you winning means other people die. And sometimes you have to do the killing yourself. Whew. That takes away your humanity a little bit. So if you can remove someone's humanity through various means, I mean, that would break them. less than human.
Yeah, I was thinking for me personally, it's that betrayal. It's betrayal and stab in the back, and then it's you realizing that actually they not betray you only after you kill them. So it would be you being like, I know something bad happened to you, and then those around you think betray you, but when you kill them, actually they not betray you, and they're all good people.
Oh, so you're seeking revenge, but then you realize you had nothing to seek revenge for.
Yeah. So it'd be you releasing the worst part of you onto them who are innocent,
Unjustifiably.
and then coming to realize that they were innocent.
Yeah.
And then having to live with that.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
All
Oh, that's
right.
fun. Okay. Let's do one on friends. And then if we want to leave, oh, there you go. We end.
Okay.
See. What have you learned from your friends?
What have I learned from my friends? Well, I feel like good values, because my friends have always been there for me, then I want to be there for them, but I've had some really, really good friends that have been there for me. And then, they listen when you're having trouble and they offer advice when you need it. And that's a good thing. So I've kind of, if it makes sense, I've learned how to be a good friend by having good friends.
Yeah.
It's reflective. What was the question? What have I learned from my friends? Also, I've learned just general, knowledge things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you talk to people, and those people are different than you, and they know different things. So you end up absorbing that information because you talk about it. So that's pretty cool. Like, I have a friend who's really into planes, so I've learned about planes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like rounding out yourself. Instead of only learning about the things that you're interested in or self-motivated to learn about, you can learn about the things that other people are talking about. And that's good.
Yeah, I put a quote here, and I just want to talk about the quote.
Sure.
Okay. Quote is, "The dominance of old men was held to be responsible for every evil known to humanity." So this was Orwell back in 1983 in his book Road to William Pier. I find it interesting is that, let's see, nearly 100 years ago, the same complaints are leveled again. Why I think that is?
The same complaints that Orwell leveled?
Yeah. Well, no, the people around him.
Oh.
It's saying old men are the reason for our problems. Kind of happens today again. I think why is it that they get so much blame? Is it rightful? Is it somewhat rightful? Is it not rightful? Is this age?
The older generation, you mean?
Yeah.
There's always been generational gaps and generational conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people might blame the older generation because those older people are in decision-making seats, and then they make decisions that doesn't benefit the younger population. All right?
Yeah.
So that could be one reason. So younger people want more younger people in power, but the older people have been around longer, so they're... they already have that. And so it's easy to blame the people in charge. And a lot of the people in charge are, from a different generation. Okay. But then there's also the thing of the younger generations are often far more forward-thinking. They're not forward-thinking, but progressive in their thinking, in their thoughts. Because the older, can't teach an old dog new tricks. People in the older generations kind of have their thoughts, and they're kind of locked into their beliefs to an extent. It's not an absolute statement in the slightest. But it's, I think, more true to say that younger people are more progressive and are more flowing with their thoughts than older people are. Older people are more of I've thought this for many years, and this is what is right. So I know it is right. Well, okay. So there's that. Younger people are more progressive and pushing for more societal change, whereas older people have lived with this for so long and just want to keep the status quo. Again, not absolute statements.
So that one. Actually, okay. One last segment.
Mm-hmm.
Questions for me. I'm curious as what you'd have for me. That's what I'm gonna do this more. And as I ask questions, I kind of see how it affects how people question me.
Interesting. Yeah. I would ask self-reflective questions like, what makes you tick? And then I'd ask you questions about the world, like, what do you think? I'd ask you something like, build a society from the ground up that you think would function for a long amount of time.
That's a fun one.
That'd be a fun one, right?
I talk to my friends on swings, 5th grade. Every questions we would do.
On swings? I love that. Yeah. So that's fun. I'd ask you about morality, because that's always a good one. Very, very, would you say it's not? It's very subjective.
It is definitely.
I believe we don't have like a objective system of morality in any means, in any sense. Like it's not like there's a federally sponsored system of morality. You know, we have the laws.
It is like the other laws they sent.
So
Unless you take some theistic government, I guess.
yeah, well, religion does have. It's more plainly put
It's true.
in a way, but also it's kind of messy because if you look through the Bible, it's kind of like.
Yeah, I think it's more like there's like one convention where like they kind of took out books of the Bible and things like it's like no, or like that's fake. Someone took it out and now King James version ever. And like that papal meeting, which I must say, you're there. Imagine how much power you had. In the course of all of Europe, just imagine go back a few thousand years, and the board meeting. It's like, so boys, Article 2, Sentence 1, keep or no? No.
Keep or don't keep.
Go for 100 years, and there's war.
It's interesting to trace those back, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny. Okay, so what critiques do you have of me?
Your critiques?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't want to critique you, Miles.
Come on, it's the best thing.
Can I just offer one singular
Yes.
critique and be done with the matter?
Sure.
Because I don't like saying bad things about people. Although critiques
I don't say bad.
They're good.
Yeah.
Good, right? I would say be more, you're very articulate with your words,
Mhm.
but like in your pronunciation of them,
Definitely, yeah. That's the thing I need to work on.
it's a little bit slurred, which might make
Yeah.
it a little bit harder for people to pick apart what you're saying and then understand what you're saying, especially when what you're saying isn't always in layman's terms.
Interesting little thing, actually, because I think the reason is that because my mouth moves compared to others much less. I'll do a smile. It's pretty wide, and it's not much of a smile. Like this is like a wide smile to me, but it's not really. I looked in photos. It's not a wide smile. So it's more about getting my mouth actually move the full extent of words. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably something like my child or something.
Sometimes I slur a lot, and then people are like, "What? Like, what are you saying?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry. I should probably say each word more independently."
Yeah.
So I catch myself doing that. I don't know. I guess I would practice by like reading a paper or something and trying to say each word. It happens to me too.
The pronunciation part.
Mm-hmm.
The giving speeches actually. That's a fun little thing.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love giving speeches.
What's the funnest speech you given?
I gave one,
Mm-hmm.
not a speech, but let's say presentation.
Yeah, that works.
I gave one in my civics class
Mm-hmm.
not more than a week ago on serial killers.
Oh, really?
Now, before you go thinking like, Ethan, you just told me like an hour ago that you were thinking about being a serial killer. Not true. But look, we had to do something on like atrocities, and that was the most interesting one I could think about. And I want to pick a project that I'm interested in so that I can be passionate when I'm presenting it. And I was very passionate when I presented it. And I think everyone had a good time listening to me talk about serial killers. So that one.
Now, was there one person in the room that said like that kind of face?
A little bit.
Okay. Did you win them over?
One person came up to me after and she was like, Ethan, you were so calm. Very calm talking about serial killers. Is that normal?
People say the same thing to me. Because like, after like arguments or this conversation about genocide.
Genocide's a big one.
Yeah. See,
there's been too many of them.
Definitely. But
one is too many, but
I agree with that. I'll do that. I'm feeling so emotional about it. I'm like, but definitionally, or with anything. So I do with topics is I take them from kind of the emotive position. I try to draw them down to earth, and look at them by definition.
Yeah, you more objectively remove like the emotion from it.
So people said to me occasionally, like, Miles,
you're almost too good at it.
Sure about that, Miles?
Because then you can end up saying some things that sound really bad.
Horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely horrible.
See, what I do is I distinguish ideas from people.
Sure.
So, like, you can hold an idea not be a terrible person. It's our actions. Mm-hmm. Okay, question. It's this. But everyone's told, you know what? You're probably a psychopath. Or you're probably a murderer.
I've never been told that.
Okay.
Actually, wait. No, I've definitely been told that I'm a murderer. I think jokingly.
Okay.
But not seriously.
Okay. I've been told, Miles, you're probably a psychopath. Kind of jokingly. And kind of not. It's funny.
Do you have empathy?
I do, yes.
All right.
I wasn't be doing this because I will do, and I kind of, I'm able to swap positions on topics very well. I mentioned before, so I'm going to go into your shoes and look at it from your view.
That's cool.
Ever read? It's called Rise of Endymion. No, Hyperion. There you go. I've read Hyperion. Okay, there's one story in there. Probably the best stories. It's actually like 7 stories, no 6, but combines into one story. And one of them is a tale. It's in the future. Space shuttle has been invented. Portals to new worlds are made and whatnot. And this girl, she grows up. You gets here from like basically like elementary school to adult life. So it's her father, and he's narrating his daughter's life whenever. And so eventually, the daughter, you realize, like a kind, smart person, goes on an expedition, an archaeologist, and looks at these time tombs. Like time is odd around them.
Huh.
Yeah. And then she gets Merlin's disease, so he ages backwards. What happens is the father, you have to watch the father see his daughter age back. And you see the same memories happen. Like, he'd always say to her, see you later, and she'd say, see you later, alligator. And so you see that happen. Eventually, she can no longer do it because she's a baby. And you get to see her mental faculties decline, and her doing things again.
Yeah.
And then also his wife dies as well. So like randomly, they're in like New Jerusalem, a new planet, and his wife's killed by a drunk driver or whatever. And he can see basically a man at near the lowest. And at the same time, he's having visions of what he thinks might be his God or his mind, saying you must sacrifice your daughter to the Shrike, whatever. That's like the main baddie in the story, one could say. And so it's just like, I don't know, a very emotive story. You're a man at his worst, caring for what he loves most. Only time that you cried from a book. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I would say.
Well, should we wrap up
Yep.
here?
Okay, any closing thoughts, Ethan?
Nope.
Okay. Anything you want to tell the audience?
Have fun in life.
There you go. That's a good one. Don't work too hard.
Yeah, but do work hard.
Unless you're me. I always say you're always hardly working.
Well, thank you, Miles.
Yep. Good time. Bye.